this right.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Stepik, will you take attendance, please?
Certainly. President Alessandro.
Here.
Vice President Brazington.
Here.
Secretary Stepik here. Treasurer Schwag.
Here.
Trustee Donnelly.
Here.
Trustee Guthrie.
Here.
Trustee Schaefer.
Here.
Thank you. Any changes to the agenda?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Donnelly.
if the board so approves, I would like to make a motion to add to the agenda a general discussion on FOIA.
Okay.
I would make that fine.
Okay. We will amend it to put it under item 5D. We need a second on that, please.
A second.
Second, Ms. Brazington. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Donnelly.
No other changes.
All right, thank you. All right, item 3, consent agenda. We have item A, which is meeting minutes of April 25th. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Schwag,
Move to approve the consent agenda as presented.
support? Support, Ms. Guthrie. Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 4, prearranged request to address the board. We have child care presentation and readings initiative from high scope certified teachers.
Hello.
Hello,
water
Shia,
for
how are
you.
you?
I am doing absolutely phenomenal.
Were you holding out on the water?
I was. This was a great introduction to pass out some water. Can you help me? Thank you. Thank you so much. You're going to help me pass out this water. I'll do this. You start over there and I'll start over here. We'll meet in the middle. Thank you. Thank you. So you have a little sack. It's been rainy in Michigan, so you have an umbrella for the rainy days. What we're going to discuss today is language and literacy. You actually have a folder, so if you can pull out your folder, that would be most helpful. Dylan is my helper today. Thanks so much, Dylan. I have to start by saying I work with the best team in the world. Really, you are only as good as the people that you work with. And, you know, they always say leadership is everything, but I really don't believe it. If your arm is dysfunctional, your leg is dysfunctional, you just have a dysfunctional body. And I work with the best team ever, so please give them a round of applause. I'm gonna take this out and just push you in.
Thank you, Dylan.
Yes, big guy. Thank you, Dylan.
You're welcome.
So, welcome to Language and Literacy and Communication Initiative. I'm Washia Jackson. Welcome. I haven't met all of the board members, but it's good to put a face with the name. My team is back there, as I said before, the best team ever. And I know we have great teams in the rest of the district. Not to minimize the other great staff, but I believe my staff rocks. Like, I just think they rock. They are the epitome of dedication. They are the epitome of the Oxford, Michigan mission and values. We work on them. They have those little cards with the mission statement. I dare not challenge them and say, what's our mission today? You see them all look down. They have it in there. You have to know it to live it. So we try to live it and not just recite it. So I'm thankful to work for them. They don't work for me, I really work for them. So I cannot give them enough kudos. So we started, if you look at your handout right here, I gave you a copy of the PowerPoint. We had a goal, 10th round, had this initiative for language and literacy, and in the fall, Ken did a wonderful presentation about early learning and literacy and the new state mandates and the essentials. And so we said we were going to jump on board and support the initiative early. Behind, let's see this little sheet I got from Ken, a report paper that we had to, a program evaluation summary. So we used our language and literacy communication initiative as a test of the time, and this is what we documented. So these are the answers to your questions. So you have your report right there in your handout. So our goal was to improve language and literacy and communication skills amongst OELC students as we ensure academic alignment with the K-5 grade. How did we do it? First, we looked at the data for Oakland County GSRP, and we focused on phonological awareness, which was the lowest score in the county of 2.27. That is on a rubric of 0 to 7, 0 being infants up to 2, infants and toddlers, 3 and 4s are preschoolers, 5 through 7 would really be kindergarten. So as you can see, these are 4-year-olds, and they have a score of 2.27. Oxford, we did better. We scored 2.53. But what does that data really tell us? It tells us that our students were really performing at an older toddler level. So although we were better than a county, the data still wasn't good. So the data in tuition-based program, the same 4-year-old students, was 3.57 at the beginning of the school year. That is a big variance. So for the first marking period, we know that GSRP had a score of 2.53. The county had a score of 2.27. Woo, we were better than the county, but because we are a program of excellence, it wasn't good enough for us. So we looked at our own system and compared our students within our students, because the greatest competition really comes from within, and we want an excellent program and not worry about what other people are doing, but us doing our best within Oxford Community Schools. But we had a variance within our programs of 1.04. That is tuition-based programs to a free program. Any ideas why there is such a big variance?
Income level.
Probably income level. Income level, and those parents pay tuition. Typically, they have higher education, they talk to their children more frequently, they read a lot of books, not in all circumstances. But just exposure in a lot of cases really does impact that score in language and literacy. So we said we have to do something about it. Tim Throne said we're going to buy all of these wonderful books for K-5. Fantastic. So how do we support them in our program? But not only that, when we look at the score of 3.57, we have to take into consideration those are students who have been in our programs from infancy up to 4-year-olds. So there's that continuity of care and high quality program is really impacting that score. So our final marking period for GSRP was a 5.14. The tuition marking period was a 5.41. So that variance, whereas in the beginning was 1.04, went down to a 0.27. That is huge. So, how did we get there? What did we have to do? That brings us to our wonderful team. Our leadership team formed a language and literacy initiative, and I'm going to ask Ms. Brandy to come up and Ms. D. Because the initiative was supposed to go from birth to K-5. So we wanted to have the same goals in our kindergarten through 5th grade and our before and after school programs that we were doing and our birth to 4-year-old programs in the early childhood center. So we used the book, Feed Fivefold Phonemic Awareness. It's a language and literacy book, and they all had to use this same book. They had to scaffold instruction to meet the needs for a 5th grader, all the way down to meeting the needs for an infant toddler. That took a whole lot of collaboration. And I have to start with Brandy because I asked her to come in my office and I said, I need some help. And, no, this was time. This was January. This is January. And I said, I need you to pioneer this language and literacy. I cannot own it because if I own it, I'm working for it. But if you own it, you have to get the team to work for it. And she said, so what do you want me to do? And I had this backpack and I cut the string off of it and I gave it to her. And I said, these are your parameters. This is your parameter. Whatever you can create with this string is what you can create with this language and literacy initiative. I only require that you have SMART goals and you have tangible benchmarks for us to use at the end. She was hyperventilating. True story. She said, can I use it to hang myself? And I told her, I totally believe in you, you know. So she took it, and I'm just going to let her give a kind of overview of what she did.
Well, first of all, when she wanted me to do it, I went back to the classroom and I hyperventilated. And then I thought about who I would pull in from schooling. Melanie has her master's degree in reading. So I wanted Melanie to be involved. And then also Kelly Lee, who is our older 4-year-old preschool teacher, we brought her in as well. So we looked through the book, we came up with some ideas of how we were going to do it and how to not scare the staff because we can easily get overwhelmed at times, especially when everybody's coming at you with let's do this and let's do that and let's do this. So we came up with a game plan and we put it out and it went really well. It went really smoothly. We followed the book and the important thing for us to talk to the teachers about was to teach the content, not the activity. So the book may list an activity, and the idea was if that activity wasn't where your children were at, like Miss D's kids who are extended day, then you had to think outside the box to try and come up with a different way to teach that, to still get the content across, but not necessarily building trains with letters.
Because we had to go from infants all the way through 5th grade, so
And
big variation.
And Extended Day had a tough time at first because the book is geared towards preschool, and it was hard. And Dee really took the reins and said, we can do this. She had great ideas. She did wonderful things with her students, lots of feedback. So then I talked to Ashia and the other girls about pulling Dee in to also be on the committee as well, just to have that Extended Day piece in it as well. And so we've had a great year. I can tell you that I have a student here right now, Alex. Yay. And he, for the first time, I've been here almost, this is my 19th year. For the first year ever, my students know the difference between rhyming and alliteration. I have parents call me at home and say, my son is telling me about alliteration. Did you teach my 3-year-old about alliteration? And I say, yeah, we taught him about alliteration. So Alex could attest to that. We just took a field trip a couple of weeks ago, and as we walked, I would say, cat and hat, and they would yell out rhyme, and I would say, Big Bubba Bear, and they would say alliteration. So at 3, they already know the difference. So we're working really hard on that so that as they move forward, they continue to be successful, starting with us.
So then that led to before and after school. So I'm going to turn this portion over to Ms. D, who works in our extended day program, and we have another extended day. So what they did was we tried to get a sampling of all grades, and you're going to have a competition. The school board members.
Yeah, we're going to show you, instead of me standing up here talking about what all we've been doing in Extended Day, we'll give you a little taste of what we've been doing. I am going to pass these out to you. Our kids in the front have the same papers.
Face down. No peeking, no peeking. No, no teamwork.
Okay, the word that you are looking at on the piece of paper is the word of the week. That is the word that we are working on right now in Extended Day. We put one word up a week, a long word. We actually have 5 or 6 words that we do a week, but we try one big one, and let me tell you, they're challenging me every week to find a bigger one. This is the biggest one in the English dictionary, so I don't know what I'm gonna do after that, unless I make them up. Anyways, Dylan is my 2nd grader at Clear Lake Elementary. He is going to tell you what that word is.
Pneumano ultra microscopic silico volcanoconiosis.
He worked a couple of days on getting the word down, breaking it down, figuring out what it means. So Braden, who is our 3rd grader at Clear Lake, will tell you what that word means.
Pneumonia you develop from breathing ultramicroscopic fire dust from a volcano after the volcano erupts.
Now, if you turn your paper over, you're going to look at the word I'm going to challenge you with today. And Dylan, again, is going to tell you what that word is.
Hippopotamonstrous quibidaliophobia.
Now, I want you to think about the word and see if any of you can take a guess at what that word means.
Is it a fear of hippopotamus?
It is a fear. We know it's a fear because it has the word phobia in it. It is a fear. It is not a fear of hippopotamus. Anybody else?
The fear of being too big?
It's, well, sort of.
Not quite.
Geriatric disease with a bad hip.
Not a geriatric.
Fear of a bad hip.
Fear of the bad health while we get old? No.
That's all I have.
Anybody else?
Okay, Brenna is a 4th grader at Clear Lake. She's going to tell you what that word means.
It means fear of long words.
Fear of long words.
What's my next one?
So your challenge is, you have, this is what we do in Extended Day. We take our long words. You have 2 minutes to make as many words as you can out of that long word.
Wait, don't start yet, because the students have to get ready.
All right.
I see you looking at the word right now. You're cheating. Let me get the timer ready here. Are you guys ready over here?
Yeah.
All
Superintendent
right.
has started already.
And go. Any word you can make. Any word you can make. Any word in that word.
Right. For the board members, it should be at least 4 letters long. My first word was hot.
There goes my first 3.
I have 3. I have kindergartners and 1st graders here that are doing 4 or 5 letter words. No, no pressure, but.
Got it.
That's 1 minute. No pressure. Fifteen seconds. 2 and 1. Time up. Pencils down. So,
Well, I'm not going to embarrass anyone by asking you how many words that you got. I just wanted you to have a little understanding of what we are doing. This is an activity, the kids absolutely love it. They have journals that they write in every day. They come in, they get their journals, I don't even have to say to them, grab your journals. They'll get them out and start writing down words, making words out of words. So we're having a lot of fun with it. It really, when I first was presented with this with Brandy, I was like, oh no, really one more thing, I don't know. We've actually been doing it all along, we just haven't been intentional about doing it. Now we're intentional. And our kids, my kids at Clear Lake, one of the challenges they have is taking these words back to their teachers and other students and saying them and asking them, do you know what that means?
so we're going to let the kids tell us how many words you had in your name. So we'll start with Dylan. How many words did you have, Dylan?
6,
6 words. How old are you, Dylan?
7 3/4.
3/4. Don't forget about that.
Oh, 6.
You're 6 years old.
Yeah.
How many
No,
words?
I'm not 6 years old. I have 6 letters in my name.
Oh, okay. How many words on your paper? He has a whole lot.
I
He
have
does.
15.
15 words.
Good.
What's your name?
Tyler,
Now you have 8 words.
Sophia, 12. Evelyn, 17. Brenna, 18. Jalen, 16. Ryan, 17.
On this board, it shows what we did and just our kind of timeline of how we started our initiative, having Miss Brandy introduce it to the other teachers, getting a buy-in from the other teachers, and holding them accountable was huge. They had 5 chapters a week. They reflected on using Google Doc where they had to document their growth, their activities, and the other teams could use their activities as well. They distributed information to the families. It's a copy of the letters that we sent, the letter that we sent home. We looked at the data at our parent advisory committee. We have a data meeting where we get with our parents and we look at the data. And in the fall, or not the fall, in June, we're going to come back together and look at the county data and just to see how we fared. So I'm going to speed through this part. So these are the 5 targeted areas that we worked on: rhymes, sounds, alliteration, recognizing letters, and sound awareness. We're really trying to close those gaps. And these are just some photos of intentional teaching. From infancy all the way up to grade 5, grade 6, we had a middle schooler come in and she played the violin and they had to try to recognize the sounds. Parents came in and they read books. Worked on alliterations, both after school. This is their board that they cover every day with words. This is an infant, a toddler classroom, and this is actually a classroom, and she's reading to the children on a carpet using our letter links. So this is some of our students painting letters on the concrete. Don't worry, it was washable. Working with more letters. Just very intentional activities. Working with sounds. This is really neat because we have book buddies that come down from OES and they read to our students once a week. So they were part of our program. This is a story, our morning message, and it says the boy and the girl, they were sad because it was raining outside. So they went in a teepee and now they're happy because the sun came out. Now they could read that in a 3-year-old classroom. So we had different guests coming in and read to our students. So some of the challenges was just implementing this across the continuum from birth to 5, activities that were really geared toward preschoolers, how did we make them more intentional for 5th graders, and the remote location and having time to really collaborate with each other. So we made adjustments. They got together. They used Google Docs. We looked at the content as opposed to the activities and tried to scaffold that for individual children and different programs. And then small groups of children got together in committees to look at the data. So, what? Really? Did we really make that big of an impact? So for the first marking period, I told you we had a score of 2.53. The last marking period, we had a score of 5.14 in GSRP, which is a gain of 2.61. That is 2 standard deviations. That is huge. The tuition program had a score where they should have been coming into the program, an average of a 3 or 4-year-old, 3.57. The last marking period, they were also at a 5.41, which is a gain of 1.84. So, with the program variance, there was a variance between tuition and GSRP of 1.4, 1.04 in the beginning of the school year. By the last marking period, kudos to them. They had a variance, it had decreased down to a 0.27. That is a gain of 0.77. We closed the gap that much. They don't know that. They're hearing this for the first time as we aggregated the data together. Just really being intentional and working collaboratively as a team and holding each other accountable as opposed to administration holding them accountable. It was totally awesome. So what do we have next? High scope certification. So intentionality comes with practicing your craft, understanding content, and delivering high quality instruction. So we had 7 teachers that are now high scope certified. I sent Ken and Tim an article from the Forbes magazine about high quality programs, and they actually cited our curriculum as the leading early childhood curriculum, and they used the data from high scope to validate quality. So in order to become a high scope certified teacher on a score of 5, you have to have a minimum of a 4.5. On a preschool quality assessment tool. So I'm going to ask that our 7 teachers, they didn't have any idea of this also. Come on, stand up, certified teachers. We have Sherry Breaker, Brandy Latham, Kelly Murray, Nancy Gray, I'm going to give them their high school pens. I drove this morning to find some pens. I begged and pleaded. I was like, you have to give us some high school pens. So I have your pens because I appreciate just your commitment to our program. Playhouses for a Purpose is coming up. You can drive past OES and you see that big yellow playhouse. We are in partnerships with Real Estate Gives, and we are going to auction off that house. Starting bid is $1,000. We are going to take that money and build 7 little libraries, at least 7 little libraries at all of our schools. Providing that the principals would like them. So that's what we're going to do with the money, so just to continue our commitment to language and literacy. And on May the 18th, next week, between 6 and 7, we have our annual spring celebration where all of our families from all of our elementary schools are invited. I think we have about 700 or more people that show up on that day. Karen Bissett, bless her, she feeds all of them as a jump start to our free summer feeding program. It is absolutely wonderful. This year we have a huge surprise at the end, so please come. This is a basket, example of a basket that we raffle off, and the children bring in different items. You have a list of items that they can bring in, and we make baskets, and they have to go around and do a scavenger hunt. And they have to say, I love OELC, and they get a ticket, and they put it in a basket of their choice, and they can win the basket. Then we have different organizations that donate items. So the Tigers donated this signed baseball. I had to hide it from Sue Roar because she really wanted it. Who? I don't know anything about baseball, bless my soul. Who signed it?
Alan Trammell.
So this is one of the raffle items that will be at our spring fair.
Where's the fair at?
It is right here in the courtyard, yes. So we have anything from trains to clowns to food to laser tag, bounce houses. I can't think, everything you can imagine. Bring your children. It's a great experience. I think I've covered pretty much everything on super speed. Sorry it took so long. Any questions? Wonderful.
I'm just curious if one of your long words was supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. What does
And
it
you hear
mean?
parents saying that it was also. What does it mean?
What does it mean?
Means something wonderful.
Thank you so very much for your time and allowing us to come before you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
Thank you.
so much.
Now, what does that mean for all you there in the front row? It means that you can stay if you'd like, or it means you can go home and get a little rest from those big words.
Great job, you guys. You beat us.
Job.
Sorry. Get out of your way, I'm sorry.
I'm good. Actually, I'm a little screen here. That's a brand new glasses yesterday. I can see it anymore.
If you need that drive, you know what. Okay. Moving along. To item number 5. Part A, bond application presentation. Sam?
Yes.
And Chuck Lewis.
Good evening, everyone. This is just a reiteration tonight of something that we've been talking about for the past, I would say 8-9 months. And so we're going to give you a little bit more detail tonight. And it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, actually impossible for me to compete with what Shia just presented. But the bottom line is this. Within all of the pages that I'm going to quickly go through in this presentation, the common theme, the common one word that I can create out of all of this, bond and funding, is the word need. Because this is truly about need. And so what I'm going to do is talk about the guiding principles of why we need these capital projects over the next several years, and basically the prioritization, as well as the estimated costs that we've developed over the past several months. So we're going to go for the defining district needs again, the main principles, and the first and foremost is maintaining the community's investment in our schools. You know, what needs to be updated or replaced to protect those past investments, and the investments that we continually make on a go-forward basis. In addition, very, very important, increasing the safety on our school sites. You know, we obviously need to maintain a certain level of safety. We want to increase our safety. That obviously takes financial means. Furthermore, we want to reduce the district's operating costs. I could think of one main component in that off the top of your head. You probably could too, and that's LED lighting. You know, there's a large push, not just in school districts nationwide, but there's also, you know, basically just this real big need for the reduction of costs in our lighting. We spend several $100,000 a year, actually about $600,000 a year on electricity. By converting much of the district, as much as we can at least, to LED lighting, that would drastically reduce those operating costs. Bless you. Enhance the educational environment is another priority for us. And so obviously we want to make it more conducive for our students to learn. So as you see here, this slide basically condenses all of the key priorities that we have as a district, as Oxford Community Schools. Again, you can align the existing site and building improvements that we need to make. I want to be very clear that there are no new construction projects that we are speaking of within this bond and this proposed funding, the funding that we're going to be speaking about tonight. This is basically replacing, fixing, and enhancing our buildings and our facilities. That really aligns with the investment component, as I mentioned. Replacing HVAC equipment and controls, specifically at Oxford High School and Oxford Middle School. Again, that touches upon the investment in the environment of our schools. We want to add air conditioning at all elementary schools. I believe we went into some detail about that previously. That obviously touches upon both safety and obviously the learning environment. We want to replace the failing roofs at both the Oxford High School. That's the primary issue that we have, is several of the roofing that is at the high school is in dire need of replacement, in addition to the bus garage. And again, that goes with the investment that was previously made at those buildings, as well as safety and operating. Furthermore, the replacement of the site paving at all of our sites, all of our schools. Both the parking lots, the drives, as well as much of the sidewalks within the district that haven't been touched recently. And again, that goes with the investments that's previously made, along with safety and the operating principle. We also want to update technology equipment at all schools. There's a component that we need to purchase new equipment. We haven't done so on a large-scale basis in a while. We've made some fairly minor investments over the past 2-3 years. We need to continue that. So there's a component there. Updating building security and access at all of our schools. Obviously very important. Obviously safety, and then the learning environment is impacted as well as our guiding principles. And then lastly, but definitely not something that is very dear to us, and that is the safety and operating. That's replacing several of our outdated buses. Now, we have a bus fleet of over 50. This is specifically talking of approximately 15 of our buses, and just because the cost is so great, we need to tackle this a little bit at a time. So again, the improvements are identified. Again, I want to go to the building systems. We've identified, we've estimated, we have $11.6 million that we feel are the needs for the building systems. Again, we're talking about HVAC controls, we're talking about building systems in terms of fire suppression, so on and so forth. We also have site improvements, both parking lots and sidewalks that I referred to previously. $13.2 million in the district overall. Replacing roofing, $3 million is our estimate. Again, the largest component of that is at the high school. Updated technology. We're designating and estimating approximately $600,000 of funds for a small increase in or a replacement of our technology. Updating security cameras and adding some, and also district access to specific buildings to make them more secure. Improving playgrounds are another component of improvements that are needed. And again, finally, bus replacement, a small component as well. You total all that up, a little over $30 million. So obviously the need is large. How much can we currently bond for, and specifically bond for, without raising the current debt mills of $7.9 million to help meet some of this need? We don't know the final answer to that yet, because the final answer is highly dependent on what our taxable values are going to come through. Usually they come through at the end of the month. They're going to give us the 2017 taxable values for the counties, both Oakland as well as Lapeer counties. When we know the hopefully the increase in those taxable values, we will have a very, very good idea of what our maximum bonding capacity will be to basically have a 0% increase, so no new taxes to our taxpayers in order to fund a large component of that $30+ million need. So we're figuring between $20 and $25 million for a bond, no tax increase. So, as you know, I just went through, we have very strong estimates, we feel, that the need is $30 million, a little over. We think that our bond limit at the maximum is going to be $25 million. So we have a little over a $5 million variance. However, chances are it's going to be larger because we probably will not be able to bond for as much as $25 million. So the variance is going to be greater. What do? What's the strategy for meeting the needs of this district? Again, depending on what those taxable values come across, between 20 and 25 million, we could bond for with no increases in the taxes for our residents. Keeping those debt mills at 7.9 mils. What's the second proposal? A sinking fund. That would be between potentially 5 and 10 million, again, depending on how much we'd be able to bond for. That would fund those other needs that I just mentioned to you. Why a sinking fund? Well, that is pretty much the primary driver without having to bond for more. A sinking fund will allow you, let's just say if we had a 0.5 mil sinking fund, that would provide our district approximately $500,000 per year over the course of 10 years. So this would help with the improvements that can't be funded in the traditional bond. We need to decide what is funded, based upon obviously the needs and the available funds. And again, this will be determined over the course of the next few weeks, again, once those taxable values come in. For the qualified bonds that I just mentioned, the largest component, there are certain things that you could use for bonds. You could use bond proceeds for building improvements, which is really what we're talking about here, as well as technology equipment, again, a component, bus replacement, again, only 15 that we're considering out of the total of 50. But then, again, that is definitely something we could do in a bond, and also furniture and equipment. What can sinking funds be used for? Really, it's very narrow compared to what bonds can be used for, bond proceeds. For sinking funds, you can use the funds for building improvements, just as you can for bonds, and also technology equipment. You cannot purchase buses, nor can you use the funds to purchase furniture and equipment. So we are limited in sinking funds, but it helps us fill a gap that the bond cannot do in its entirety without raising taxes. Does anyone have any questions? I tried to move through this as quickly as possible. I know that most of you have heard this before, but not into the level of detail that I went into with regards to the estimates.
Mr. Donnelly?
Mr. Chairman, I have a question for the, why a sinking fund slide? You broke it down to $500,000 over a period of 10 years. And that's using the lower number, right?
Yeah.
Is that over 10 years, is that a limit? Why aren't you getting in, I guess my question is, why isn't it being acquired over 5 years? Or is that how it's designed? Is that how?
You could design it any way that the district sees fit. For instance, we could propose to you to do 1 mil, which would give the district a little over $1 million at the current taxable values over the course of 5 years. So that would still be $5 million. And again, if the bond is, we're not capable of bonding for more than, let's just say, 20 million.
Mm-hmm.
We know our need is a little over 30. My proposal would be to put out a sinking fund for the variance of up to $10 million. But as of right now, we're just making an estimate that we could bond for the maximum right now of 25 million, hence the 5 million example that I gave to you in the sinking fund example.
All right, so Sam, again, follow-up question.
Yes.
Same topic. Does the sinking fund, is it limited in time? Why are you saying 5 years, 10 years?
You can't go more than 10 years. So they just recently passed legislation where, at the state level obviously, that took it from 20 years down to a maximum of 10.
Got it.
Great questions,
Thank you.
absolutely.
Ms. Brazy?
Have you had a chance to reach out to the community and come up with a task force
I have,
to really help
actually.
prioritize?
Yeah, that's a great question. Thank you, Trustee Brazington. I really wanted to let everyone know that we met on May 1st with a small group of individuals. We invited many, and it was the first of probably several meetings that'll take place specifically in the summer. But really, we reached out to all of our district administration, principals, assistant principals, but I reached out to them before the meeting to ask them, could you please give me your PTO presidents, your heads of your schools in terms of community voice? Obviously, we had a small room. We weren't able to provide a room for everyone on a short notice, if you will. But we wanted to present our priorities. We wanted to show them our needs in the district and show them what we were thinking, to get their thoughts and their input and their feedback of what they see as needs as well. And again, we have a lot of need there, as you can see. And again, over $30 million. We have more need than what we can obviously bond for without raising the debt millage rate. The sinking fund would indeed, if we decided to go that route to fill that gap, that would increase the taxpayers' current taxes, obviously. You know, it's for every 1,000 of taxable value, you pay $1. So if if we go for a 1 mil sinking fund as an example, the person with a $200,000 market value, which would be 100,000 SEV, would pay $100 more per year if we were to pass a 1 mil sinking fund, just to give you an idea of how much that would cost.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions?
Any other questions? Mr. Schweig?
Not a question, but a comment. I think you're moving in the right direction.
Thanks.
And it's kind of like one step at a time.
Yeah.
And like you're saying, let's get this in order and then move to the next one. And I agree with reaching out to the community and getting community input is going to be vital in this, because once we establish what the priorities are with that group, they will have a better sense of what the community involvement is and what that community feels they can support.
Absolutely.
And that's what we want to do.
I agree. And it truly is all about communication. I truly believe that. So, thank you. Thank you, Chuck.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Chuck. Okay. Item B, board governance.
So this item was put on your agenda, really to give you, the board member, an opportunity to discuss how you all want to work as a board. As you know, one of your main jobs is policy and those types of things. It's another thing, though, to put your policies and your expectations of one another into action, and how you want to work through those types of governance types of actions. And so really this is just a time for you all to discuss issues, concerns, how you see yourselves working together as you move forward, really to help you perform at a higher level as a board. I think I'll just stop there.
Okay. This was the topic that we tabled last meeting. We weren't all together as a board, and we felt as though at that time that it would make more sense for us to table it to a day where we could all be here in attendance. So, Tom, did you?
Yeah, being new to the board and first of all, I'm getting to know all of you and appreciate all of you and how the structure works. Having been on now for about 4.5, 5 months, I guess one of the questions that I have as a board is that one of the things I thought I heard the first meeting that I attended was that whatever we discuss as a board, that once a decision is made, we go with it. We go with it. Hence, the first time I made a decision, I was against all of you. And, but I was the first to go to the office and sign a document and say I'm all in, because that's what we said. About 2 months ago, we had the issue of Tim's travel to India. 2 to 3 months ago, it came up as an agenda item. I think based on an email that you had sent the leadership, and then you guys brought it in as an agenda item. One of my concerns in that process that I just want to share with you is that I know Joyce couldn't be at the meeting. But the discussion that we had that meeting was kicked off by her. It was her topic, her concern about Tim's travel, and it was laid out in a discussion. We voted on it. After hearing Tim say that less than 5% of his time is used, we voted on it. And we voted to just not have it be an issue, and that right now we're going to be in favor of it. The very next meeting, one of the first things stated was that I just want to put it under public record that I'm in opposition to whatever the board decided. That seems opposite of what I was asked to do when I first started. And my concern is that in the weeks to come, not even weeks, in the week to come, the flurry of information on Facebook and other places about at least one person on this board cares about the community and everybody else on that board only cares about themselves is going to create the kinds of dissension that we don't need. We don't need. And I feel from a governance perspective, Joyce was rightfully respected, her opinion was rightfully discussed. You did the best you could in representing her position based on her email. But once we voted, we voted. And if I'm gonna use this public arena as my way to say, hey, just so you know, public, I'm against whatever they decided, that's opposite of what I was asked to do when we first got in. And I just want to say, what do we want to be? Once decided, are we good? And we go out to the community saying we're one? It's good to be an Oxford Wildcat? Or are we going to say, well, but not me? And I just want to know how we're going to do that.
Well, I think it's important, having been through it, now looking back and reflecting on it, Tom, those agenda items get put on, they get requested, and Tim and I discuss them, and I either yes or no, they go on. And so with that in mind, as I reflected upon it, I think I have to do a better job of understanding, not understanding, that's not the right word, of honoring the vote that we took, and still honoring all the thoughts of the board members individually. Trying to get a quick step ahead of it, we need to follow Robert's Rules of Order a little bit tighter. And that falls on me. So in regards to that, I'll take responsibility for making sure that Robert's Rules of Order become, we're a little laxed, and we can't be. And that's my responsibility. Tim and I have discussed it a little bit. I'm not saying that I own it all, but at the end of the day, I put it on the agenda. So for that, that was my error. I should have kicked it back and said, we discussed it, it's been voted upon, and I didn't do that. So I owe an apology to you because I didn't do that when you were the dissenting vote. So my apologies to you in that regard.
Since it was a specific concern, I guess, as far as board governance goes, I would have appreciated maybe Tom just talking to me. Like, this is the first time, I never realized it was that big a deal, this whole India thing. So I wish that we were able just to talk one-on-one, which I think we're allowed to do as long as there's not 3 or more of us there. So if I knew that Tom was disappointed in something I did or said, I could maybe explain it to so instead of you being concerned for 2 or 3 months, you could have said something to me privately or publicly. And the only reason I ended up bringing up that India thing at that time was I wasn't sure about the minutes, because the minutes said all board members supported the trip to India. And my concern was I wasn't there, so when it said all board members, I just wanted to make sure that people knew that it was all that were there. And so I was hoping that there would have been some kind of correction to the minutes or something. And as far as the Facebook thing goes in Florida, I have not seen Facebook, so I'm not sure what's being said out in public. And, I think I care as much as everyone else cares about Oxford. And Like, that is not an intent to like one-up somebody or anything like that. I don't know Facebook or who's out there on Facebook. But I would never want to discredit a decision the board made. And I think I've gone, like all of you have, out of my way to support a decision once it's been made. So I apologize if you were taken aback by me wanting to correct the minutes or the perception.
Any follow-up? Mr. Schwag?
Yes, I think, first of all, I think it's great that we meet to talk about this. This is something that involves holding us accountable and making us better. And I think it's more procedural than it is personal. It's like, how do we do these things when we disagree with something? And as Dan said, you know, do it through Robert's Rules of Orders. There's a reason that's it. It's diplomatic. And you don't have to hurt somebody's feelings, or that's not the intent. It's to go through a policy or procedure and do it in a fashion that respects all of us. And I guess when I look at board member ethics 0144.2, section D, encourage the free expression. This is board member ethics. As members of the board members will strive to encourage the free expression of opinion by all board members and seek systematic communications between the board, student, staff, and all elements of the community. As we do that, we need to do it in a manner that is professional and organized and speaks more to the policies and concerns that we have, and try to keep it away from being a personal issue. Looking at this, we probably should have tabled the issue because Joyce wasn't there. She brought it up, she wasn't there. We seem to have corrected that when you brought up board governance, and we went, okay, should we talk about board governance? The person's not here. And we agreed, no, let's not do that. I don't think, there was definitely absence of malice in the first instance. Sometimes we look to get something done, and you know, we want to get the issue out there, discuss it, and he was on a schedule of moving and setting those things up, so we wanted to do those things. So sometimes the element of spontaneity and getting it done flies in the face of what we can do. And I think we just need to look at these situations as they come up and say, is this something we can talk about now? Or if that person isn't here, should we wait? And I think, just as we did on these issues tonight, when with the superintendent recommendation that's coming up, we waited. And I think to be as a full board when we do this. Now the second half of that is what we've got to talk about. What happens if you or one other are the dissenting votes? How do you carry forward? It's easy to say, you know, you just go forward, but sometimes we have some feelings. And is there a way for us to discuss that amongst ourselves so that we're saying, and I think it comes across, not against anybody personally. I may not be in favor of the motion that they're making. That is not an attack on me if somebody is opposed to my motion. They're opposed to my motion, not me as a person. I think that's what we've got to start to try to understand.
Mr. Stepper?
Thank you. Joyce, I was similarly taken aback when you said that at the meeting, because I thought that there could have been another way to go about that, because in all the classes that I've taken, which are many through MASB, one of the main themes is that the board come together, which we did the very first time we met when we had our workshop, and there, before you new guys were on. And we really did get cohesive after that. And it was all about having good discussion and coming to what's best for our kids. And then everybody's got to be on board. So you weren't at the meeting, so you weren't part of the minutes. You don't get a vote on the minutes. And so to change the minutes, you could have, you know, talked to either myself or Dan. But blurting it out at a meeting, I was really taken aback, because that makes us look like we have dissension. And we really worked hard to get past that in the beginning. And I think we need to continue to do that and not throw daggers out or surprise people. It's all about the one-on-one talk that you talked about. That's the way that should have been handled, in my opinion, instead of just blown out to the public. Because we have to, especially with what Sam's doing now, we have to go strong and be a strong, cohesive group to get what we need for our schools. And if we're having this little, I don't know,
Well, I definitely apologize.
certain kind of matches that we're.
I mean, I apologize
yeah.
to Tom. I did not
Yeah.
realize this India thing was such a big thing.
Yeah,
I don't go on Facebook to know what's being said, so I apologize for all of that. And I meant no ill will.
I
So I don't know
understand.
what
but-
else I can say.
I understand, but.
And if
this-
board governance was like pick on Joyce,
You know what?
then I'm
No.
like ready to go.
I didn't mean that. I don't mean that. But again, you know, Dan's as the helm, you have to take better control. I agree with that as well. That we all speak at your behest.
Yep.
And only. And it should remain that way. So I want us to work together to be a greater, solid team. And it's okay if we have differences, but once we get past that point, Mike, you have to jump on board. And if you have a different opinion, that's okay, but we have to go strong for the public.
Mr. Donnelly, then.
Joyce, not picking on you, so don't leave.
The bigger picture was the thing, for me, not you. The bigger picture is, in the future, once we make a decision, are we all in? Because my chance to dissent is in the meeting when we're talking. What I saw on Facebook, what I saw in some of the conversation was, ooh, I don't want to see that again, because that is going to get disruptive in the community. I mean, there's name calling and all sorts of things going on, and you can't control it, you're not to blame. But what about the next subject? What about the next subject? I want to make sure that our governance is that our chance to dissent is in communication when we're in a meeting. Once the vote takes place, we're all wildcats. We just keep moving forward. Or do we open up public opinion again and we start rallying the dissent after the vote? And I think that's going to be destructive. So I just wanted to, so it's not about you. In general, how are we doing this?
Okay. Mr. Schweig.
And I think that as we go through this, we will be stronger together. As I look at this, and when we say, how do we go forward after the vote? I view it as just what you're saying. We have the dialogue, we have the discussion in an open meeting where we can all talk like we are right now, and the public is invited to hear it. And then I look at it as like an athletic contest. I give it everything I have. I'm in it, 100%. If I lose, the game's over. The referees made the decisions. I am not going to complain. I just don't operate that way. And I go on, that one's done, we go on to the next one. And I don't talk about losing or whether it was bad, good, or nothing. We go ahead, we approve things. I always say this, our board approves things with 4 votes or disapproves things with 4 votes. That's it. And we move on.
Okay. Ms. Schaefer.
I just wanted to make a comment. There's a lot of discussion and words being used, like dissent and things like that. I think we are all public servants here as board members. We are voted in by the public. We are voted in by people that we have worked with, volunteered with, helped. They vote us in because of what we stand for and the kind of people that we are and what we believe in and things that we will stick up for or vote for and really, you know, and help to help our community. And so I think it's, you know, I think it's great if a board sees eye to eye on every single item, but that's not necessarily a good board. The community calls us all in because of our different experiences and different backgrounds. So we're not always gonna see eye to eye on everything, and that's okay. We just all have to work together afterwards to move forward. And I think that's important to remember in, you know, I feel bad, I think, you know, everybody's kind of jumping on Joyce a little bit here. She, you know, she wasn't here, and she just really wanted to kind of make that, put in the minutes that it had reflected that the board did this, and she was not a part of the board at the time, and I think that that was where that came from, genuinely.
Ms. Guthrie.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to capitalize on some of the things that have been said, I think stepping back and taking taking with us what we have just talked about, maybe we can think for a minute about the fact that, as Heather said, we come from different places. We come from different experiences, different experience levels on this board. There's a lot of history, and I respect that history, I think we all do, that happened before some of us joined. So to me, what I see when I step back is a group of people who come in at different levels and different places and are on different parts of the foundation that is this board. And I think what we might need is potentially a training resource or some, either from our community or from our county or our state, that might level the playing field in objective, important ways so that we can continue to be united in our purpose. Because we really do have pretty simple reasons for being here, especially with regard to our district, our constituency, our students. And we're all here for really good reasons. And giving a lot of time, giving a lot of personal investment, and that brings us closer. That's something in common. So to me, it's what do we lack that's in common that's dividing us? We're fractured a little bit. So my request, I guess, is to consider, I think we've talked about training. I know that there's, one-on-one classes that we've talked about and been encouraged to take. I've looked into that, and those classes have been offered at a distance from here, and I haven't been able to make it to those classes, but I think if we were able to, one more time, bring that to this board, and maybe that's one resource that'll level us out a little bit, we'll have a better understanding of how to work together as an informed and educated board. Robert's rules will become a higher priority for all of us. It just brings us all to the same place. And that's, to me, that's the focus we need, is what are the resources we have that will bring us to the same place? Thank you.
Thank you. Pat, you and I'll get together at the end. We'll circle around MASB classes that we can take as a whole. We'll bring MASB in district. So we'll get that handled, and we'll put some dates out. And as they say, we'll get learned up.
I have another kind of a board governance.
Yes.
I thought initially this topic was going to be about how do we hold ourselves accountable. Like when we signed that principle of ethics. So let's say, for example, I did something at my work that caused me to lose my teaching certificate. Would that be something where this board would try to hold me accountable because I didn't behave professionally? Or let's say I drank at a bar and got a ticket in Oxford. Again, I'm not going to do any of these things, but because trust me, I said the word Indian, I just got chewed out. I'm not going to say anything else. But I think one of my concerns is, like, how do we hold each other accountable to that code of ethics? What happens if we feel the code of ethics has been violated? What is the mechanism? And I'm just like to hear the board discuss that a little bit more and sort of get off my topic and make it more general.
I think that's a great question, and rather than try to wing it, I think that's something that we really should address in a class with MASB. We have MASB come in and do that. And I think everybody needs to understand your personal life is your personal life. I don't know anybody here that walks on water. We're all gonna make mistakes. If something happens in your professional career, that's your professional career. This is not, we are not judges, we are not juries. We don't say, something happened at your school. If it's egregious, obviously, then that's something that we need to discuss, but you know, I would hate to be on a board, any board, school board, board of governors for a business, where they're watching everything that you do. If you go out and you have a beer or, you know, I mean, I know what you're saying. And, you know, I'll just circle around to the very topic, and just say that none of us are gonna do everything right every single time. We're gonna make mistakes, we're gonna step in potholes, but I think the more that we can lean on each other, I mean, I think what we're doing is we're teaching kids that, yeah, you make mistakes, but you know, you move forward and you go, and you just keep moving forward, and, you know, so I think the best thing to do is get MASB, get a class scheduled, we all sit together, discuss it, and we'll go from there. Yes,
I'm
Mr. Schwag.
I'm all in favor of whatever the group decides. I've already said that, I'm on record. I think this is an overreach. When I saw board governance, I didn't think this was gonna be about the one situation that Joyce was involved in, I really didn't. To schedule classes with the MASB because of one comment that was made by a board member, I think we can address it amongst ourselves in our meetings as we go forward. I think it's to schedule sessions with the Michigan Association of School Boards over this issue, and say that as an outgrowth of this, we need more and more training on a topic of being civil to each other and running a meeting. We can do that. Our meetings have run relatively very well, and that's a credit to you, Dan. So I don't want to say that, you know, you need to gear things up and tighten everything up, and I think you do a very good job of it. I think this is one instance where we need to address it, but I think it's a bit dramatic for people to go around the room and say about Joyce and comment about it and say this isn't about her personally and keep mentioning that. I think we need to address it as a board, and how we, like I said, how do we go about when somebody has a dissent and makes an issue, how do we handle it as a board? I think we said we take the vote and we go forward. And I felt that we were pretty much looking at doing that. But now I'm hearing we need more training on this. So I'm just saying I'll do whatever the pleasure of the board is, but I do want to make that comment.
Okay. All right.
I guess one more comment. I guess when I talked to Tim about this topic, Tim said it was gonna be all general topics, nothing specific. I feel like it was very specific tonight. And I feel that, Tim, you should have stepped in. I feel Dan should have stepped in. I think if there was a specific complaint against a board member, similar to what Tom raised, which is a valid concern, he had it, then I should have had the ability to speak to that in closed session. I feel that this has just been really horrible.
Mr. Throne?
So, I agree, Joyce, and that when I did talk to you, that was my interpretation of this line item. And as I had, I think, spoke to a number of board members, that this item, in my eyes and in my understanding, was, again, in general, how does this board want to decide how you guys want to, I don't know, I'll just say work and play. And I agree in that I think there are some basic things that you guys can agree to. And specifically when it comes to the leadership code, I think your question is not only appropriate, but very realistic. You all signed that leadership code. What does that mean, really? What does it mean? And how do you all want to put that into practice? I have my own personal ideas, but it's your board. I work at your pleasure, and so in some regards, I think I'm overstepping my bounds if I try to tell you how to function as a board. I don't think that's my role. And so, I certainly apologize, Joyce, if, I don't know, I should have done something different or what have you. That certainly was not my intent. My intent was to put an item on the agenda so that you all can discuss in open. When an issue does come forward, how do you guys want to address it? I mean, I think you can talk about that. I think you can say, like you just said tonight, I think one of the first things that we should do is just go directly to that person. You all have to decide that, though. I can't decide that for you. Or you may say, nope, I think we should handle it a different way. That's okay. The most important thing is that you guys decide together how you want to function, how you want to, hold each other accountable or that type of thing. And not only just, accountable in actions or that kind of thing in public, but hold each other accountable in trying to live out the policies that you guys approve. That's really where the rubber hits the road. We've got a ton of policies, but how do you actually put those policies into action? That is governance. And that is what my belief is what you guys still need to talk about and work through.
Mr. Donnelly?
Mr. Chairman, I just want to make clear, I know obviously this upset Joyce. My whole beginning was what do we do at the end of a meeting when we have a decision and dissensions brought later? My whole discussion was about a contrast of two times. Once when I was a dissenting vote, once when Joyce was. She's only being used as an example to try to talk about a bigger question. I'm not. There's no complaint. It is asking this body, and I think Mike said it very clearly. You play the game, you give it 110%, and when it's done, and the vote's made, and that's it. We go. That's all I wanted to hear, because that seemed not to be what happened then, and I wanted to make sure how we're going to function. And secondly, I believe this should be bigger than what we discussed. I agree with Joyce. What about us? What about as people? What about things that go on in our lives? What about the standard by which we should be held? That's a worthy discussion to have. I can't agree with that more.
You good?
No, I'd like to ask a question, please. Thank you. I'm left confused when asked how, as a board, do we want to function together? Because I believe that in some cases, how we function together, we are to exercise specific procedure, specific rules, and follow those rules when we work together, and in some cases not. So all I'm saying from the training perspective is, at one time, it's my understanding that, or more often, I don't know, but it's my understanding that historically, this board has invited the state to come and offer the trainings that most of you who've been on the board have already had. But I think I'm not able to answer that question about how we want to function as a board and feel comfortable answering until I know that I'm answering the right way. So my lack of experience and my lack of education about Robert's rules and about parliamentary procedure and how to proceed that way, I'm working on that, and I've been trying to research that and fill myself up. But I think it would be better if we all help me, help us. That's all I'm saying. So that to me is where we are. We're just in different places from how to go about that to me. Thank you.
Mr. Schweig?
Thank you. And I agree that we need to look at it. I'd like us, because I think we've done very well up until this time, and there's been an instance or two, and I don't think it's at, and I'm not saying we've got to wait till it's out of control. I'm just saying I think we can keep this in a small box right now and deal with it. I've heard a comment said, how about if I've got a complaint or concern with how a board member acted or did something or was conducting a meeting, I talk to that individual. I do that. Now, if it's not resolved, then I tell that person, I need to bring this up then at a meeting because I was hoping to resolve it with you, but it's not getting resolved. Then it would go, I would see, to another level. Other than that, I think that's what we've been doing since January and everybody's started. Now, we haven't had a long run, but we're moving along. And just the fact that we haven't had very many or large types of disagreements with the board, we have worked together. I think that's a good sign. And again, that's part of that is with Dan doing it. I don't think our goal needs to be that we need to be better parliamentary procedure, Robert's Rules of Orders people. We need to be able to express ourselves at a meeting in a fashion that is organized and not limits anyone. But if there becomes a concern and it's not in your mind appropriate to bring up in an open session of the board, we can talk to each other individually at a later time. So I still think that maybe that's the level we're at, and if that doesn't seem to work for everybody, or if everybody says, no, we have 4 members who want training, let's do training.
Okay, let's move on. Okay, item C, Superintendent Negotiation Committee. We have Mr. Schwag, Tom, and Heather. Who wants to go?
Well, I'll start it off. We had a chance to meet as a committee, the 3 of us, at the board office, and did a lot of discussion as to how we want to begin negotiations with the superintendent in terms of contract. We all felt that Tim has done just a tremendous job in the time that he's been here. And in looking at that, we wanted to instill a confidence in him and in the employees of the district that he's going to be around and for an extended period of time. And that with that discussion came, this is a time where we just wanted to look at this one issue of extending the contract. We're not talking about any other type of opening up the contract in terms of salary right now or wording or anything like that. We felt that at this time it's imperative that we would want to show a group of support for Tim continuing on with the district, and he also giving us a return of commitment, saying, yes, I want to be there, and if you extend my contract, I'd be happy to do it. Now, I'm not saying that's what he's going to do. That's what we were hoping for, so that's what I came up with, and Tom carried that forward and met with Tim.
So Heather, why don't you read the motion so we can have a discussion?
Yep.
I'd like to make a motion to recommend that we intend or would like to extend Tim Throne's contract for 2 years, which is up in June of, out of there?
Yeah, it's right there.
Oh, sorry.
It's okay.
Move to amend paragraph 1 of the superintendent's contract of employment to read, "The school district hereby employs the superintendent, and the superintendent agrees to work for the school district for a 4.5 and a half year term commencing on July 1st, 2017 and ending on December 31st, 2021, subject to all covenants and conditions of this contract. It is understood and agreed that superintendent is employed in the capacity of superintendent within the meaning of the Michigan Revised School Code and subject to the provisions of this contract."
Support?
Support.
Support, Mr. Donnelly. Discussion? Okay, I had a couple questions which caused this to get bounced here. Couple things. I had a question as to, and this might fall under B, which would be board governance. it was passed on to Pat, I would need to see that before we can put it on here. So I didn't get with Pat. I think Pat and I kind of came together on a Monday morning and said, hey, how's everything going? And she said, well, here's the board agenda that we're working on. And I said, I need to see this before we can put it on. And then I had a question, which is why we took it off on the dates. The dates being December 31st, 2021. And help me understand how we came to that. And the reason I'm questioning it is because the school year goes to June 30th. So if we go into June 30th and all of a sudden our contract's up December 31st, we could be winging it for 6 months.
Well, true, but we know that 5 years in advance, or 4. Just saying.
True, I know,
Just saying, yeah.
but, I know, but,
I think
So
we
then
can
I-
develop a plan for that.
so then I discussed
question,
it,
though.
I discussed it with Tim, strategically how we would want to handle that if this was the case or what came up. And so after I pulled it off, Tim and I discussed it, and I think it really works to the benefit of the district to be December 31st, so the committee did a very nice job. Because, and here's why. When you're looking for a superintendent, if you're looking in June, guess what? The pool is very, very small. You're looking in December, people are looking, oh, this is my next career move, this is the next step up the ladder. Again, it goes back to exactly what y'all were saying earlier, you don't know what you don't know. And so having discussed it, you kind of talked that conversation through. I guess that's maybe the luxury that I have, having to see this and then being able to get his ear, and so I'm now good with it, but that's how you guys came up with it.
I think Tom talked with Tim about it. We had,
Right.
and it was part of the negotiation process, and Tim asked that be in there that way.
Okay.
So we agreed to it. And the other thing I would just point out at this time, December 31st of 2021 is not his exit date. He
No,
may
yeah.
go longer. So I mean, it's not like, but that's as far as we could go with the number of years, and that's what we asked. There is a stipulation as to how many years you can extend a
Correct.
contract. So it fits within the confines of those parameters. And that's there for that reason, not because we expect him to be gone
Sure.
at that time. He will be talking to him about, of course, going on from that point when we get near that.
Okay. All right, that was my only concern question on it. I just wanted to make sure that was the intent. So, any other further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Item 6, curriculum instruction, no. Item D, FOIA discussion.
Oh, that's right.
We added that in the changes to the agenda at the request of Mr. Donnelly. You want to bring it up?
Yeah, please. Thank you for, board members, for putting this on the table for discussion. Nancy, you've been sharing all of the FOIA letters back and forth with us, and that's been indeed an education. One of the things that has been included in some of those emails are the reimbursement fee structures for what you're getting. And this last week, well, actually, I went through about 2 months of them at one time. And I just wondered, can you quantify in hours from January 1st to now, how many human hours and who those human hours are that are required to answer these? Because I'm not sure you're charging enough. Because I started doing the math myself, and you'd almost need a full-time staff person just to keep up with the FOIAs. Because I get you're being reimbursed, and I get the FOIAs have to be supplied. It's Freedom of Information Act. But at the same time, if Joyce, Nancy, no. Yeah, there you go, Joyce, there you go. Nancy, if you or one of the other staff people are involved in this, when you're involved in that, you're not involved in what you're supposed to be doing. So as someone who comes from the employment world, my question is, what's my loss, right? It's not just that I'm being reimbursed, but that guy that I'm supposed to run this machine or do that didn't do that for a week. And so we don't oftentimes take a value of lost labor, not just the cost of doing something, but the cost of what I didn't get done. And are you factoring those in when you create your cost analysis?
Well, we do have to be specific to the law. So unfortunately, that's a very good point, and I appreciate that point, because even the time that I put in compiling, going to each individual, so what I do when I receive a FOIA request, I look at it, determine, do I need to go to SAM? Who should I ask for that information? Ask them to give me a calculation in terms of how many hours it will take them to put that information together. So the factoring in of all those hours is what we can legally charge. Unfortunately, you know, Sam has to put in extra time. I have to put in extra time, and a number of individuals do as well to make this happen. And, you know, that's...
Can you quantify the hours?
In terms of...
Without too much work, because I don't want to
Sure.
send you, I don't want to take
You can FOIA that information.
Not off the top of my head, but I can certainly look at hours and let you know in terms of, you know, what that looks like. And I do try to factor in the amount of time, you know, spent gathering that information as well.
And I have one other question, just one last question. Without getting specific, some of the FOIA requests are indeed very specific. So how are you guaranteeing, for instance, if there's a subject A, and they would like to know all correspondences from anybody in the school district about subject A, are you doing a database search? How are you doing that to make sure that you capture everything that you're supposed to? Just curious.
So normally, the question would be emails from this person to that person, or if there
Stuff like that, yeah.
is, you know, a topic, we do have to go into, you know, the databases and pull those out, and a lot of times that's our technology person. Unfortunately, the rates we can charge legally are the lowest paid clerical person that we can charge. So we never make up that money.
So last statement, when you do the hour adjustment, when you do the hour kind of study, and can you do a delta variance? This is what we're able to charge, this is what it would cost?
I could put that together. Yeah.
I just think it's good for us to know. It's just good for us to know that
Just not a short
as
time
we're
Sure.
facing these FOIA issues, we're taking in $6,000, but it's costing us $60,000.
Yes.
Well, I would be happy to do that on, you know, several instances.
Maybe a few.
Don't want to do all of them.
No. But that would be an education for me, and I thank you for letting me bring it up.
Yeah, no problem.
Any additional discussion on that? I would like to have some numbers to that. Is it possible to do it before June, before the next fiscal year comes around? And here's why I ask, because whether we're in a position of agreeing or disagreeing with FOIA is a very big reality in today's world. It just is what it is. We have to understand that, and if it's gotten to the point where we need to hire a full-time person to do so, because currently we have Tim as the FOIA, thank you, the FOIA coordinator. If for some reason he's delaying that process, I think it's time that we address that issue so that the person or the people that are requesting the FOIAs aren't delayed in that process. That's an important piece of the FOIA process. So we need to make sure that we have somebody that can answer them quickly. And quite frankly, I don't think that having the superintendent of the district as the FOIA coordinator is the proper person.
Mr. Throne has designated me as that person,
Okay.
which, again, we follow the timelines. It does take, there are times when it takes time and we do need to extend legally.
Right.
We put the extension in.
Okay.
So, and then we do get the fees prior to submitting the information, so sometimes that's delayed by the other party.
And so that we have proper information moving forward when you do that in June before the fiscal year is over. Sam, if you can also roll into that what a minimal salary and all the additional benefits that go along with that would cost the district.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Schweig.
I think it's a very timely conversation for us to discuss this, and it's an important one. Certainly, FOIA has the requirements is exactly what's needed. As Nancy says, she follows them. The fact that they occur is a function of regulations, and just as what we have through state regulations as far as education and that, we follow it. It's a cost of doing business, but I think we need to establish what that cost is. I mean, I've said to myself, well, you know, it's a cost of doing business. That's why we're open and transparent, and we do that. And that's good, but we do need to figure out just what you're saying. What is that doing to the structure of our offices, and how does that mitigate what we want these people to be doing? And is there a more efficient way to do it in terms of personnel, and understanding the fact that we're going to handle them all? You know, that as they come in, we are going to address them, we're going to do them, and we're going to follow the law exactly as it's written. But we may need to adjust something to how can we do this in a more cost-effective manner. And I appreciate that conversation.
Yep. Okay. Any further comments? All right. Thank you. Let's take a 3-minute break.
Yes.
I wanna just
Good idea.
gather, okay? All right. Item 6. Curriculum and instruction, Mr. Weaver.
All right, we're gonna go pretty quick here. Molly Darnell, who she'll come up to the front. She's gonna be presenting on the MYP Personal Inquiry class, and we'll get started there.
Do you want me to use this?
Yeah, I think you have to.
Okay. All right, so I'm like a microphobic, that's my phobia. I just prefer to talk. So I'm gonna be presenting today on the Personal Inquiry Project. It's the consolidation of learning in the middle years program. Okay, so as I'm sure you're aware already, with the primary years program, PYP ends in exhibition, and then the diploma program ends in what they consider their cores of extended essay and TOK and CAS. For the middle years program, that is the personal project, and over the past 2 years, we've ran 2 pilots with these. I asked a volunteer of anyone in the 10th grade class to see who would step forward. During our first year pilot, we did it during our literacy time. We had 16 takers, 15 completers. And this past year, I had students finish about 2 weeks ago, maybe 3, where there was no school time. It was before or after school. I had 11 takers and I had 7 completers. So we knew from the beginning of the year, I'm gonna pop off of this for a second. We knew from the beginning of the year, it's here, that we needed to figure out a better way to implement this. And so we went through 3 options on whether or not that was implementing it as a mentor, implementing it as a class, or embedding it within a course. We sat down with counseling, administration, multiple teachers, and did a pro-con list, and eventually we decided that the class was really our best option. It will be offered as a 1-semester course next year. That was done because of the projected number of about 20 students that were coming in, so wanting to take it. So it will be done in the fall. In order for a student to be considered a completer of the program, they need to finish this project, and I'll give you a few more details on that in a minute. If I go back, these were some of the types of projects that students did. So it's complete inquiry from whatever they want to do as an individual. It's for that kid of multiple ranges, just, it could be anything that they want it to be. And so these are a list of what's happened over the past 2 years. Skip past
Really
this for a second.
driven by student interest.
Yes, so here's what it's driven by student interest, and here's what I wanted to break into. That's through those units of study that we have in the course. So in that first piece, they're investigating, and I heard in a presentation earlier, that same idea of developing SMART goals, and our students do the exact same thing. They set their SMART goals. They also set their criteria for success. The most amazing thing that I think that's happened over the past 2 years of doing this with students is sometimes peer pressure is positive. And so I've seen it happen a lot of times towards the end of the project where everybody else has a much better presentation than I have, so I'm really going to all of a sudden up my game. Or everybody else is pushing themselves to present formally, I'm going to push myself to present formally too. So really making kids kind of set those goals for success based on individual needs. A big part of that has been especially that self-management piece. It will continue to be a self-management piece as well. In elaborating this to a class, we're able to hopefully push that criteria for success a little bit differently than I have in the past. Before I might have said things like, hey, you're also in robotics, you're also in the play, maybe we want to back off on a few other, maybe we don't want to take such a firm criteria for yourself and hold yourself to that accountability level. What is truly doable for you? In the taking action portion, they're communicating their thinking skills are being placed into action at every point in time, and then there is an evaluation of the project. The project itself ends in a report. So this is what's really different about this. They're investigating, taking action, doing all the planning. None of that is really, that's not the project. It is the project, but the report is what's that graded piece. So they're telling you their story in this report. They're telling you what they've learned throughout the process. So I gave the example of if you decide you're going to build a boat and your boat sinks, you don't fail as long as you've learned from that experience. And that's truly the goal of what we want all of our students to take away. And again, it's their challenges. So whether they decide they're going to do a written piece or an oral piece or a combination of the two, that's up to them. They have alternatives based on what their skills are or where they want to push themselves. Where do they see themselves going in a few years? And then there is, this is just something we added in. This is not really part of that IB process, although it is a little bit too based on your 21st century skills. We have an adjudication piece in which they do a formal presentation in front of myself and a few other teachers at the end. Usually Carrie Connor's been involved. She's our media specialist at the high school. She's been phenomenal help. I should also mention Joe Amabili and Jason Eldridge have also been a great help in this process. But so they sit down and they do a formal presentation. And then we have a showcase that parents are brought into. And during that showcase, there's a 5-minute informal presentation that they have to prepare for. But there's also a select, and those kids that really want to, again, push themselves a little bit more and get up in front of an audience and do that formally. They can do that there as well. In terms of resources for next year, this is that unknown for the course. I don't know what kids are going to take an interest in until I know I don't know what the resource needs are. So I'm looking into option of grants for next year and for the course. That's kind of where I'm at with that. As a final end, I mentioned towards the beginning of the presentation that in order to be considered a completer of the MYP program, you needed to have successful completion of this project. And so we're looking at doing a MYP Oxford certificate, and that would be, and we kind of have some things that we're fleshing out in terms of what are those requirements, but we know that they're going to fall under a couple categories. The first is to achieve competency in 6 subject areas. So that's your 5 core, and then your elective options out of the arts, PE, health, and design and technology. This, by the way, takes place during your 10th grade year. And then successful completion of the inquiry project and successful completion of service and action. In addition, and adding in this course, there is a service and action component where kids will take a look at what is really like mindful, what feeds you and why would you take action in it? What's philanthropy truly meaning? What's the meaning of it beyond just giving financially? So there's some pieces of that in the class as well.
Any questions? As far as this goes, this is really a culminating capstone to the MYP program. And as an IB district, we are required to give the opportunity to the students to complete it. As of right now, not all students are required to complete it. We are going to be looking at different options for honoring the kids that do and take this on. As you can see by what they're doing, a lot of soft skills, 21st century skills, also IB calls them ATLs, that you find very useful in employment long after you leave high school. Probably get more from this than most of their actual academic classes, quite honestly, because they're skills that they will take into a workplace. So we want to really look as we go forward at how can we make and encourage students to enroll in this and take on the added challenge that the course will provide. So we'll be coming back to you with some ideas for that. I've already talked to Superintendent Throne about that, and he's supportive as well too of trying to make sure that, you know, we are an IB district, and that's what we do K-10 as well as 11th and 12th grade with the DP. So we really want to make sure that this stands out and kids see it as truly an honor and something they want to strive for. So I think Molly. She's done phenomenal. By the way, she is the MYP coordinator. I don't know if
Oh yeah, I don't think I said that.
Anything else, Molly? Mr. Schwartz?
I think it's a great opportunity for kids, and by your explanation, you overcame probably the most difficult thing for students to get involved in. You're giving them something they want to talk about.
Right.
It's like, here's your 3 choices.
Right.
You know? But so I think right away you overcome that hurdle, which is great. And the thing that I like about the way it's set up is that you then go through, what do you want to do? You want to make a paper airplane? All right, here's the format you got to go through in saying all that. And then when you come out, just like you say, how far does it fly? Now, it doesn't have to fly that far, but you have to go through all these procedures because these are applicable to anything you would do to make your case and go, as Ken was saying, later on in life, when you're in a employment position, you can apply these skills because these are real life skills, and sometimes it's better to learn them early and in a fashion that is non-threatening, and I think you're doing it. Great job.
Thank you. No questions or comments? We're all set?
Okay. Krista, is she still? Yeah, all right. Let's make a choice.
Your expectations are too low. All right, but I am gonna pirate some technology here, so. Don't worry, I'll put it on.
All right. Well, you're fine. Just want to put your.
All right.
Oh, there we go.
We should be good.
All right. She's going to be presenting 3 different curriculums.
Do it as fast as I can.
As fast. Acting 1, Advanced Acting, and the SAT. These are 3 classes. We've had it, 2 of them up at the school, at the high school for a little bit, but we updated their curriculum. It hadn't been updated in a little bit. And with Krista teaching it, we felt like and it wasn't really MYP at the time. And so we went ahead and updated it and got it all set. And then as well as added SAT, which she was teaching this year as well. And so we're doing all 3 of them at this time. So
I know SAT and acting seem like they go hand in hand, but I did teach both. First of all, thank you. I've never had an opportunity to stand before the board before. I just want to say thank you for your service, and especially those of you who attended the musical this year. I really, yay!
That means so much to the students and the teams and the people that work on those shows. So thank you so much for those of you who attended.
It was great.
Thank
Loved
you,
it, yeah.
thank you. Yeah, so many board members were there, and kids noticed that. So thank you for being present in your schools and the community.
I was Peter Pan.
In high school?
No.
I thought we were going to hear a story about your past there.
No.
All right, so I'm going to start with the SAT prep course, which on the books is called Collegiate Transitions. Really, it's SAT prep. Leslie and I designed it this past summer, so we did a lot of studying going into it. The rationale for this course is obviously the district would seek to increase their SAT scores and also improve literacy for students, and that's what prompted the development of this course. But more specifically, the redesigned SAT that has now been given twice. The redesigned SAT, it was evident that students were not proficient in a lot of the skills of that test, because it's very different from some traditional things that we typically do in classrooms. It's a lot of very high-level thinking skills, and we wanted to get some of that stuff in front of them, give them practice with it, and also teach some of those skills that just aren't really covered in really intentional ways in the classroom that are specific to the SAT. So the redesigned SAT really came about, why is there a new SAT? It came about because of this, the stuff in yellow here, that students were not proficient in these things, and that's obviously, as we all know, what they need in the work world, wherever they go beyond high school. So these are the reasons that they redesigned the SAT. Many students see the SAT as a big hurdle, right? It's something they have to get over, something they have to get through. And as I began teaching the class, I used this metaphor that they need to kind of take a brain shift on this. Don't think of it as a problem hurdle, but instead an opportunity to showcase some skills, some very specific skills that you're going to learn in this class, and it shouldn't intimidate them, that they're going to go into the SAT much more prepared than their counterparts, other students that haven't taken the course or studied some of these methods. And I told them that you'll have an edge. You'll learn how to better jump the hurdles through some of the things that we're going to do in this class, but more importantly, there's so many tricks to this test to lower the hurdle. So we kind of approached it from both ways. Yes, you'll get better in some of these skills, but you're going to learn some tricks on how to lower that hurdle so it's easier to jump. So what content do students need to know going into the SAT? Do any of you know? What specific content do students need to know? Any ideas? Board? Math, yep.
Science.
No. I mean, it helps,
Yeah.
but that's on the reading test.
Writing?
Mm-hmm. Yes, they have to have some writing skills, but specifically how that piece is written is more on the skill side of things. Any other guesses? So really it comes down to two things. When it comes down to the content, it's grammar and math, okay? That's the content. They have to know grammar, they have to know math, and language use along with grammar and so forth. Beyond that, it's all skill-based. It's high-level thinking skills. I was tempted to bring a sample test tonight just for you to take home and at your leisure. At your leisure. But you know, save the district some money, don't make those copies. So really it's a skill-based test, all right? And what it comes down to is, like I said, these high-level thinking skills, evidence-based reasoning, rhetorical analysis. This was a brand new term to many of the students who took the course. This idea that looking at the author, how the author constructs his or her message is the most important thing, not what your opinion is about what the author said, and so on. Synthesis is a huge thing, which if you know Bloom's taxonomy, that's at the very peak, at the very top of Bloom's taxonomy, but synthesis of multiple passages, synthesis of graphic information, persuasive appeals, like you said, writing an essay, but not just an essay about a story or something like that, but specifically analyzing a source. So even their writing piece is about rhetoric. So these thinking skills that they don't get a lot of opportunities to, again, it goes back to this. That's what's really being tested. These are the skills that are being tested. So there's also some specific skills to this specific test, and that's what I called the ways to lower the hurdle, and I won't go into them all. There's a lot of them, but I did a lot of studying over the summer. And at first I was like, I don't trust this. I don't think this is the right way to approach the test. But the more I tested myself on it and used these kind of tricks, these lowering the hurdle tricks, the more I found that scores continued to raise, and that was true for students as well. So things like the order in which you answer the questions. So on the SAT, there's 5 passages that they have to read. One of them is a paired passage. They have 10 to 11 questions after each passage. So like 52 questions, 65 minutes, 5 passages. One is a paired passage. So there's just not enough time to read it all carefully. So there's very specific strategies like what order do you start with the questions and so on. And so these were some of the skills specific to the test. How to answer specific question types. If they're used to seeing these standardized questions with different question types, they got better at being able to answer them. And then they hate this, but I tell them SAT knows how you're going to answer wrong. So you got to get used to what they're expecting you to answer. So common thinking mistakes on the SAT that that SAT expects students to make and how to avoid them. So there's a lot more to that, specific skills for this specific test, but those are just a few. So the course goals are not just to arm students for this specific test that they take in March in order to help raise our district scores, but also to support students thinking in all courses, because they're only going to take this test once. Yes, it's an important test for their future, but the way that they learn to think and process and look at an author's argument and determine whether something is reputable and credible and so on is the more important thing, and they can use that in all of their courses. Another course goal for me was to teach memorably. A big challenge because a lot of the strategies they were learning, we really hit hard like in October. They took the test in April. So between that time, they don't have the course. So teach in a way that's memorable and provide them with resources that they can very readily and easily go back to was an important thing as well. And then to equip students to better help themselves before taking the test while preparing for the SAT. A lot of strategies where they're not just like, oh, well, whatever I learned, I guess I learned, but being able to go into it and know the online helps that help them, pre-testing things so they know which math concepts they're struggling with and so forth. Which incidentally, on the math topic, I had students that were in some of the highest math courses that were getting things wrong on little pre-tests in some of the easiest math, simply because they hadn't had it since 7th grade. So they're becoming equipped with all this knowledge of, okay, I know that stuff, but I learned that I'm getting a lot of them wrong, so I got to make sure I review even that. So it really, this is one of the goals as well, because they don't have me through to the end, or any other teachers through to the end, so equipping them to help themselves in preparation for the SAT. I won't go through all of these, but here's some sample comments at the end of the course that students said about the course. I just took like the top 7 feedback sheets. This student said, I think the skill that has helped the most is slowing down and comprehending what information was given to me, that literacy piece that we've been working so hard on in all of our schools. Mostly improving language arts. We read Shakespeare, which can be hard to understand, and analyzing the text sure helps, So, yeah, go figure. This is another comment. I've learned test-taking skills in this class that I've been able to use to better myself outside of this class, so then seeing the benefit outside the class was really important to me. What was most helpful to me was trying different ways to do things. In other classes, I think about other ways to figure things out. So they're finding this crossover. It's not just about the test. This class helped me expand my general knowledge of grammar, which is kind of one of my #1 comments that I kept getting from students as the course went on, that they learned a lot of grammar and they're able to apply a lot of that. Mental stamina and test-taking strategies, this student said, helping them in language arts. This person said they're acing almost every single test in language arts now. Help them learn the things that I got wrong. And this person says they'd go back and try and figure out why they got things wrong. So again, these thinking skills are what's so important. This one talks about time management and high-level thinking. So yes, the course, the ultimate intent is to help the district scores raise, and we won't know until all the data comes in and we look at those students specifically. We had 3 sections, 3 full sections this past fall. It's offered in the fall. So that's We don't have the data yet, but I think a lot of students felt much more mentally prepared and had the resources to make sure that they were prepared going into the test. Any questions on that course? Yes?
How do you balance teaching to the test and teaching skills?
Well, it's pretty much, like I said, all skills, because you really, it's weird to say, you really can't teach to the test because the test is not about content. So it's really teaching these higher level thinking skills and practicing them. And then going back, we do a lot of, okay, look at the ones you got wrong. Now let's do an analysis of where you messed up. So there's a lot of that as individuals and groups and so forth, and whole class as well.
Because I see this as, a lot of applications, but maybe one would be like, if you were teaching somebody to do a dance routine, you would say you want to have the best routine because you're going out in front of all those people. So here's some things you're going to want to do. I mean, simple things like when you turn, you need to smile, you need to move quickly. Those are all things that you're talking about in your class that will help them when they take the test, as well as if somebody's in dance, there's a coach who says, this is what we want to work on. And those skills that you teach, where you call lowering a hurdle, which is a great analogy, those skills that you teach are going to make them, at one point, a better dancer, but it's also going to make them better in other avenues in life, saying, I can apply these kinds of strategies to do other things.
Yeah,
so
and that was really
excited for what you're doing.
Well, thank you. That was really one of my goals. We even did a couple days of tiny tips. Like we'd start the day off with, if you're ADD, try this as your test taking, or if you're, like just little tiny things that you can try, and confidence things. And a lot of people have anxiety with test taking, so some of those things as well. That wasn't the focus of the course because there's so much to cover. But yeah, we did do a little bit of that as well.
Ms. Scott, right?
Thank you, Mr. Knight. I am so excited you're offering this class. And that's a personal thing, but it's also for the board, because I think this is so important. So I second what Mr. Schweig said. But my question is, I might have missed this, but you said you had 3 sections this fall. Are you full for this coming fall? And if you do get full, do you add sections?
I don't know the numbers, but both Leslie and I developed the course. So, I don't know how counseling would handle it. I'm available to teach, but there's other teachers that would be as well if it continued to grow. So much at the high school comes down to scheduling. So It just matters what hours it's offered and whether or not the kids can fit it in their schedule and what other singletons it's up against and those types of things. So, our goal is for it to grow. But I can't speak to that at this point, so.
One more quick question. I see a lot of flyers come through from, what's it called, Peachtree? Peach Jar, thank you, for other classes that are offered. Are there any that are similar in structure? This sounds like this class is just ideal, it sounds like.
Yeah, it's kind of its own thing, for sure. I put a lot of time and energy into making this the best that we could. But I appreciate your suggestion of what are some other ways that we can promote the class, because I hear this comment from parents a lot. Oh my gosh, I'd love for my kid to take that. So yeah. What was your question exactly? Did I answer it?
Just more that, like if there is not an opportunity for a student to get into one of those classes, is there another class that Oxford has promoted that's external?
I gotcha. Okay, so outside of the regular school day.
Outside of the regular school day.
Okay.
We are looking at options to see if we could get students some SAT type prep outside of their normal 1 through 7 class hours. So we are looking at different options. We still have some work to do on that, but we are definitely going to be offering some different things that will be given to parents.
That's great. It makes it so much easier. And I'm so, again, proud to be a Wildcat. That's just awesome. That's really great. Thank you so much for doing that.
Yeah, we're in 2017. There's so many online helps as well. Khan Academy is doing an amazing job at some of these things. Now, some of the skills we teach are kind of go beyond that. But there's a lot of PrepWorks is another one. There's a lot of online helps that help to guarantee scores as well. But this gives the personal touch and the ability of a teacher to interact with students in a way that helps with the thinking skills.
Yeah, exactly. Way to go. That's great.
All right, thank you. No other questions?
Other questions?
Thank you.
Well, I've got 3, so on we go. All right. So the next one I'm going to talk about is acting. The only reason, like Ken said, that we're bringing this before you today is not because the course hasn't existed. It's existed for a long time. There have been some revisions and changes. One of them is because of the implementation of IB. Another one is we used to have 3 levels, but when we've gotten a lot of new courses in, including the dance program and a lot of other programs, leadership and so on, it became really hard for the students to get through all 3 levels and get to that final 3rd level production course. So we did alter the 3 levels down to 2. So we have we have acting and advanced acting. And the advanced acting level course, students can take multiple times because it's different every time. So just that quick background. So the purpose of acting, it's an introductory course designed for all students. And the goal is to help them step out of their comfort zones in order to develop individual and group communication and performance skills through the art of theater. So theater is the medium that we use to try and teach these things: expression, analysis, and communication, the body, mind, and voice. Acting is a prerequisite for the advanced acting class, and like I said, the goal of advanced acting is to actually produce shows. So really we're looking at, I share this with my students on the first day, this quotation from a Daniel Pink book that talks about the keys to the kingdom are changing hands. The future belongs to a very different kind of person with a very different kind of mind. And it goes on to talk about creators, empathizers, pattern recognizers, meaning makers. These are all the things that we seek to teach in a class like this. Inventors, designers, storytellers, big picture thinkers. So really the goal of acting is to use theater as a medium, a springboard, to be able to teach a lot of these 21st century skills. And to help students recognize these are the very skills that can help them in their future, along with other things they're learning in school, of course, but very skill-based class. So it's broken into 3 units: stage, story, and scene. The goals of the first unit, I have comfort zone with a line through it, because we do a lot of activities at the beginning of working to get students out of their comfort zone and interacting with others. As the years go on, I've been at this for 19 years, it gets harder and harder because they get more and more, bubbled. Do you know what I'm saying? Any of you parents here? Yeah. You know what I'm saying. So getting out of the comfort zone. Secondly, to learn the building blocks of theater, so dealing with composition and learning to look at things like an artist and look at things like a performer, and also to create original works. So in the first unit, they're creating several different types of scenes using different prompts provided by me. Maybe one day it's a piece of music, maybe another day it's a color, maybe another day, it's a lot of different activities to get them interacting with each other and creating original works. And then to grow as an artist. They're actually graded on growth, not on performance. So the goal of the course is to get them trying and doing and creating. All right. And then in the story unit, we look to discover patterns in or of strong storytelling, and we begin to dissect different stories, what makes them compelling. We read a script in that unit, we analyze the parts in the whole, and we interpret characters, looking at character development. In the scene unit, the goals in that unit are to analyze, interpret, and portray scenes and characters believably. So that's when we really get more heavy into the acting part of it. A lot of stuff up until this point has been smaller projects and building up to the scene unit. And we talk a lot about our shared humanity in this unit as well, because we're portraying people. That's the medium of any acting, is believably portraying people. So we look a lot at the human condition and what we have in our shared humanity. So I know that's brief, but any questions on acting?
How many sections are available?
Right now it's just 1 per semester.
Okay.
So, and then advanced acting is 2nd semester.
And are those full, or is there a waiting list to get?
This is another one of those that, like, as a singleton, it's kind of hard for students to get scheduled. So, I have had experiences in the past where kids really are trying to get in, but because, schedule-wise, it competes with something else, or it competes with an IB program or whatever.
And a lot of the kids in band,
Exactly, we share.
They have other interests,
Yeah.
plus they're in the advanced classes, and that group tends to, I mean, if you could schedule them a 20 a day, they probably.
Yeah, of performing arts, I probably would. Yeah, we share a lot of choir students, and that's a 4-year program. So as soon as they're in those 4 years, that leaves a little room to take a semester course here or there. Band is the same way. We just, by nature of the beast, we share a lot of those students. Now, a lot of those students supplement by doing the after-school piece. But yeah, I wish we could have more of them in the classroom. So, any other questions? Okay, and then finally, advanced acting. As I put this one up, I'm gonna throw up some pictures of some shows that we've done in this class in the past. This particular picture is from the Crucible. We did that 2 years ago in advanced acting. This is actually in our classroom, so we transform our classroom, which is a black box theater space, into an actual performance space, and they perform in that space. So the purpose of advanced acting is for students that want a more in-depth study of acting. We actually do full-length plays for the community, so they are after-school performances in the evening, just like our regular main stage shows, and they are performed in our black box theater. Students do everything from audition to performance. So because we do a different show every time I teach the class, which is a little bit scary, because you never quite know what you're going to get, the curriculum and projects change each time. So we still have, if you saw an atlas, we still have some base things that are the same, but they're handled in totally different ways because their content is different. So I'm going to go real quick through this and just tell you a little bit about each unit. The first unit is auditioning, and the focus is on effective communication, focused on audience understanding and perception. So really focusing on what is the audience getting out of something that you're performing. Not are you emoting, but how are you connecting with the audience? We're dealing with high schoolers here, right? So, but that audience connection with any communication or performance art, that's what's most important. The second unit is creative collaboration. Again, in the Atlas units, I'm sure you saw a lot of how we cover this. But the focus of this unit is creativity, collaboration, and problem solving in teams. And the end result of this unit, hopefully, is always the selection of a show. So in this unit, I'm trying to get at the heart of what they care about, what they're passionate about, what their interests are. And then our shows are always chosen based on those things. So that's why it's a little bit scary, because I don't know as a teacher going into it what we're actually going to be, doing and performing. I have to kind of put my teacher hat aside and be facilitator and kind of keep it process driven for the sake of the students. So that's Unit 2. Unit 3 is the majority of the class, the rehearsal process. They work on rehearsing an original, on creating an original work. Sorry, I really shouldn't read original work. Producing a play. And then they're also creating every aspect as well, including the set, the props, and so on. So this is an example of the show that I had up a moment ago, The Crucible. They're learning painting techniques to create wood grain on the floor. I know it seems a little weird that it'd be orange, but that's one of the layers. So they work on, building the set, for example. They learn some scenic painting, whatever the show needs, finding and gathering props. On the wall over here, you see some of our actor research, things that they researched to be able to produce the show and so on. And then, of course, the lighting, the music, all the other stuff. So they're really responsible for every aspect, and unlike the main stage shows, there's no parent teams to swoop in and save them. So they really learn, from it's that life skill piece again. They're actually creating. And then the final thing is performance, the completion of art. Art isn't done until it's viewed or appreciated by an audience or by somebody else. So that is the final piece, is the performance. So that's really all I have. I tried to keep it as brief as I could, 3 in a row. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, boy. And last but not least, as far as the presentations go, we have the developmental kindergarten. Mrs. Dieters and Mrs. Cisneros would come on up. They also have a crew behind them.
And they're all gonna come up.
Yeah, you might as well. They've all worked very hard.
Waited all this time.
Yeah, they hung in there. You're gonna kill me. Oh yeah, you're doing part of the agenda. It's gonna be harder to get people to show up now. First of all, I do want to thank all of you. This is an important part of the curriculum process. Before we go much further, I just want to take a couple of seconds. It really helps. We go through OCC, which is we present to each other, and the teachers get very nervous and so forth with that part of the process, and they want it to be all polished. And then as well, for this part as well too, they get very nervous about presenting to the board. But it does give them a chance to showcase what they're doing, so that when you have situations or you run into community members and they want to talk about a class or something, you at least might have had a presentation that you sat in on, and you can actually speak to some of the things that you've seen, or if some of the things that they're doing in the class as well too. Plus, it gives you a chance to see the curriculum that they have created in Atlas. It also gives them a chance to showcase what they're doing. And you know, they don't get very many times to you. I mean, the basketball team, you know, if they win, they get trophies and everything else, and they get a parade if they go all the way and stuff like that. Teachers in classrooms, quite honestly, besides the praise of the students and the parents, many times don't get a lot of accolades outside of that and in the community. So this gives them a chance to really showcase what they're doing and for you to get an appreciation of that. And it really helps with kind of, quite honestly, a little hidden pressure of quality control as well too, quite honestly, and helping keep that process, although I think quite honestly they would be fine without it as well. They're a great group, all of them are. They do phenomenal work. So that said, I will let them quickly run down the list of everybody here and introduce themselves and what role they have.
We actually have a slide where we'll. So we did trim our presentation from the Curriculum Council down quite a bit. So hopefully it's going to be a quick presentation today. Curriculum Council, I stole all their thunder too. I tried to tell all about it before they even went. So all I'm going to say is we have developmental kindergarten in the district. It's growing. It's in 4 of our buildings. We spent this year really trying to formalize the curriculum so we're on the same page. Also make it part of our IB program as well. And they'll tell you about that process. Today it's going to be Carrie and Sarah. They're going to be presenting. Katie and Gina did to the Curriculum Council last week. All right.
Do you guys have your handouts already?
Yeah,
the
the
folders. Okay, so we worked as a collaborative team to help create the report card and the rubrics and everything you have in your packet. I'm Carrie Cisneros. I'm the DK teacher at Lakeville.
I'm Sarah Dieters. I teach DK at DA.
Katie Francis, DK at DA.
Gina Zaloga, DK at Clear Lake.
Christine Vince, I'm the IB coordinator at Lakeville and at Leonard Elementary.
Maureen Magdaleno, I'm the literacy coach for the district.
I'm Stephanie Nemi, I'm the IB coordinator at Clear Lake and the K-5 math coach for the district.
And I'm Rita Flynn, I'm the IB coordinator at the OALC, DA, and OES.
So this was the whole team that worked on creating a curriculum for DK.
So we met multiple times this year as our whole team together, and we developed a report card, our curriculum, we revised it, we reflected, we changed a lot, and then went back and just made it the best we could.
There was a lot of experimentation going on with some of the different programs and things like that. We also did a lot of learning as well. It's really nice to have our literacy coaches and other coaches in the district, math coach, where we spend a lot of time learning along with writing curriculum.
So DK started with 36 students and 2 teachers at Daniel Axford, and we this year have 85 students, 4 teachers in 3 different buildings. We teach a modified kindergarten curriculum, so it's not the same, you don't hit all the kindergarten, we're not teaching it 2 years in a row. We take what they need to know and we give them the basis to form on it. These are the standards that we follow for DK. So we wrote 6 units for our IB. We only needed 4, but we just decided to do all 6, and we have taught all 5, so we'll do our last one next. Most of our units we wrote the ways we teach it, but that's just how DK goes. We do read alouds, we act out, and so to bring 6 units in was actually pretty easy. That's why we went with 6 instead. How we organize ourselves was our first unit that we created together and that we implemented in our classrooms. And we wanted, when we were creating it, we wanted to make sure that it was something that would encompass the whole day, and it was something that would, go across all subject areas. And it was actually really easy to teach to our kiddos, and we taught them how our classrooms were organized and how, we keep our tools and our pencil boxes organized, and our books are organized, and how we organize ourselves in the hallway, and we walk in a line. And actually, our kids still talk about it, and we use it obviously the entire year, and they really enjoyed it and learned a lot from it.
You have, and in the back of your folder, you have the how we organize ourselves example that you can look at.
So we're talking about how organization impacts our day, and these kiddos are organizing their pencil boxes in the classroom.
I like organization.
We need it in DK. Each unit we sent home an action slip that they would have to take and show how they can do that at home as well. So for this unit, they had to show how they organize something at home. And then they brought it back, and then they would present it and share how they organize something and how it helps them at home. So we use in DK a bunch of different curriculum resources. It was really exciting to experiment with a different variety this year with Maureen and Stephanie, always giving us extra tools. So here's some of the resources. And then the last 2 slides, we are going to be getting some more products to help support our curriculum in DK.
So when we write new stuff, we need new stuff. So.
Right.
Are you asking for $6,000 or what?
So,
The math
Yeah, so
needs
this
are
is where
really
all of a sudden I
difficult to align.
And I'd like just to say that DK is such an amazing, if you ever get the chance to come in, we'd love to have you. But we get to take the babies of Oxford for their first experience in school and really show them what school is all about, and then send them off to kindergarten and know they're gonna do amazing.
Just real quick, I like to say, they do a phenomenal job, and they had a lot of support and help and stuff like that. And for the first couple of years of the program, they were doing a great job of piecing things together and stuff like that. And then as the program grew, we had to really bring it together so that we had everybody at the same spot, and there was some strength in numbers as well too, in helping develop the curriculum. And they really worked at finding, building all this up from scratch. I mean, it was a lot different than a lot of the other curriculums in that the report card, everything, the standards, they had to really figure it all out and build it all up right from scratch. And so it was really awesome to see them all pull together and all play a part and a role in that, even Mr. Boyd. And they really came together and brought it, and it looks really, really nice. And they did a nice job with the report card, and I'm really proud of all of the work they've done. And it's amazing, if you do get a chance to visit the elementaries, see the DK classes. It's amazing to see you walk in there, and these kids are so excited and eager and just all over the place, and they do a great job with them. They just keep them focused. Yeah, they are. They're a handful, but they do a great job keeping them. And then they'll show you something that honestly, and I don't not to be disparaging, but it looks just like scribbles on paper, and that's writing, and then telling you that's right. And I'm like, how do you correct this, and then how do you prevent your own writing not to look like this after a while? But they do a fantastic job, and they're awesome. So I just want to thank them for all the work they've done this year. So. Thank you, and thanks for hanging in there.
Oh, it was great fun.
All right, just the last couple of things, they're just FYIs, and I'll be really try to be quick about them. OVA is is asking as well too, and so then all of this curriculum will come up next time at your board meeting for approval. OVA is asking for approval for kindergarten to be added to their, let me get the phrasing exactly right. The state of Michigan manual now allows for kindergarten homeschool students That's membership in non-public schools and homeschool to enroll on a part-time basis in non-essential elective courses. So these are their partnership classes where like the karate classes, the art classes, stuff like that, they're elective classes. Right now they're 1 through 12 and they want to add kindergarten to it. So we're gonna need to approve that. And we can get funding for that as well too, and that benefits the kids, gives them a better educational experience as well. And then the last thing that I would like to talk about is we are looking at the high school to going to a product called Naviance. It is a EDP process software that will help students with college selection, plus it has a parent communication piece. One of the reasons why we are looking at this software is to try to increase parent support as they go to select colleges. Also, it has the ability to communicate with parents, where our current software, the Career Cruising, though a lot of the costs, and this cost isn't offset by Oakland Schools, but at this point we feel it is worth it. This software allows you to directly communicate with parents as well as the students, so that you can kind of work them through the EDP process. It'll help facilitate this whole process for our counselors, who each counselor up at the high school sees what, Mr. Dunphy, about 400, 450, somewhere in there, students.
Close to 400.
Closer to 400, I won't exaggerate. Close to 400 students, and therefore this will help them manage that and working them through the EDP process, which is their own. An EDP is, I should probably explain that, is a 4-year plan for high school that will lead to your success as a student, either in college or career. So, and this software will help with that, helps align students with colleges, helps align them with career choices. It also has a bit of a tracking system in that, so we can see how well our students did after they leave us as well too. So there is a piece in there that we can then see. The state is doing more of that, but this is even more specific because it gives you out-of-state stuff, information as well too. I don't know to what degree yet, but the gentleman assured me that it's like 95% of, or 96% of all kids in college are reported through this system.
When are you looking at putting this in the?
This will be used and implemented we're gonna put it in place July 1, we start. Counselors will probably be trained sometime in September, with implementation starting from there. It will be used at OHS, it'll be used at Bridges, and it will be used by OSEC and OVA.
Anything you can do to help engage the parents in this process, because that seems to always be getting the counselor, the student, and the parents on the same page or something at the same time
Right.
when it's necessary. And if this does that, that's a great help.
That's one of the reasons why, like I said, the counselors really do a nice job generally working with kids, but the parents don't always know what's happening, and they're sometimes not as informed, and the student at that age wants to be treated like an adult, and sometimes, but yet they don't always take the responsibility of talking to the mom and dad and making sure, because they're usually footing the bill. And probably need to know what's going on with all of that. And so with this piece, it'll allow that electronic communication and help facilitate that process a lot more. So we're really excited about that. The counselors help, by the way, just so you know as well too. This is, we looked at a couple of different products. Counselors helped select this product and were involved all the way along, and this was their selection. So just an FYI.
Thank you, Mr. Weaver.
Yes, and thank you for being patient with the curriculum department.
Excellent problem. Okay, moving right along. Item 7, Finance and Operation, Mr. Barna.
We just have a recommendation for action for the Oakland Schools budget for 17-18 and electing a designee.
Okay. Mr. Schweik?
I'll volunteer.
Oh,
look at that. Can I have a motion, please? Mr. Stepik.
I move to appoint Treasurer Schwag as board representative for the Oakland Schools budget.
Support? Support, Ms. Brasington?
Actually, Dr. Brasington.
Dr. Brasington.
Thank you.
Discussion?
Wait, what does this entail? Just occurred to me.
Hey,
what did I just
yay.
say?
Sorry, you're already in.
You're already in.
We're on discussion.
Come back now,
Let's
sorry.
backtrack
Is
this.
this, do I just attend a meeting or
It's
something?
the
Actually,
packet there.
basically, you're just, if you have time to review the packet.
That's pretty much what I did last time.
It is what you did last year.
I got it, okay. That's what I thought I was getting. That's good.
The budget must be approved or disapproved by our board, by every Oakland County School District by June 1st.
I'm in.
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mike. Item 8, Human Resources. Ms. Latowski.
There's a recommendation for action for work compensation that was performed and has not been yet paid. So we would recommend this action
Okay.
be taking place.
Have a motion, Mr. Donnelly, please.
Move to approve the compensation payment of $52,000 for services rendered by Todd Dunkley while serving in the role of International Program Administrator during the period of June 2010 through June 2015.
Support. Support, Mr. Stepik.
Yes.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. I didn't.
Peripheral.
Yeah. Yes, I have a discussion.
Yeah.
First of all, I greatly appreciate the opportunity to discuss this motion at our meeting tonight. It's obviously an important development that we need to address. Therefore, I have some questions relative to deciding my vote on this motion.
Okay.
So I'll try to keep it brief. Nancy, does our Human Resource Department have any signed and dated written contract between Mr. Dunkley and our school district for the period of June 2010 through June 2015, stipulating a specific salary and/or stipend for duties as director of the international school? A written, dated, signed contract for this position.
We do not have a written contract signed by the district and the parties.
Okay. So, not having that, then why would we pay Mr. Dunkley for previous work compensation he was not contracted to do?
Would you like
Yes,
me to-
I'm sticking
Okay.
with you because you're
Okay.
presenting it. I'm
Okay.
sorry, but
No
yeah.
problem.
Yeah.
So there was an original letter when the services began to be performed, stating $20,000 per year. And Mr. Dunkley performed those services for numerous years, put in many, many hours, much of his own time, obviously, not connected with his work as principal or assistant principal. So we looked at the amount of time that was taken from Mr. Dunkley and determined that this was an adequate amount to be paid.
So, I guess, what is it that we have if there's no written contract? What is the basis on which the
Here.
district is compensating him for it?
We had the original letter that stated $20,000
Mhm.
and the number of years that he worked in that capacity.
And being that it's not written, and no one signed it, is that a issue at all for, it is for me.
As we feel that money is owed to the individual, I think it was unfortunate that there was not a signed contract.
Okay.
But in terms of compensation owed, we do feel that he performed the work, and we do owe him that compensation.
Is there any written, signed, and dated job description indicating the duties, responsibilities, and expectations for the position of International Program Administrator?
We've had various positions connected with the international program, so.
I'm just talking about Mr. Dunkley's.
That role was verbal with the previous superintendent.
Are there any written evaluations of Mr. Dunkley's job performance as International School Administrator?
Not to my knowledge.
Okay, and this is just, according to our Human Resource Department records, is the director of the Oxford International School and the director of the Oxford International Residency Academy the same position? Not a trick question, I'm trying not. Again, let me just say that again. According to our Human Resource Department records, is the director of the Oxford International School and the director of the Oxford International Residency Academy the same position?
No.
So they're two separate? In October 2013, did our superintendent at that time appoint a new director of international school with a compensation of $12,000?
There was a position, yes, that was appointed to another individual.
In July 2014, was a director of OIRA appointed to serve as half-time director of Oxford International Residency Academy and half-time teaching position?
What date did you say? I'm sorry.
2014, yeah.
Yeah.
Did we have somebody?
Yes.
Okay. That being said, so there were two people running the international program, like Mr. Dunkley?
There were various duties. They weren't the same exact duties. But
And we
yes,
had
there
how
were.
many students
In which
at that
year?
time, 2014? 36?
I don't have it in front of me, but
Let's
it
just
was-
say ballpark 30 to 40.
Correct.
And we had two people running it at that time. Okay. And then, to your knowledge, did Mr. Dunkley bring this matter to the attention of the school board at any time during the time that Dr. Skilling was superintendent of Oxford Schools?
Not to the school board, to my knowledge, but to Dr. Skilling, yes.
Well, having been provided this information, I believe that Mr. Dunkley did not have a verbal contract with the Oxford Schools. He had a verbal promise from Dr. Skilling, and he needed to contest this promise, this is just my opinion, with Superintendent Skilling. So, having been provided this information, and I appreciate the opportunity to do so, I will be voting in opposition to the motion to pay Mr. Dunkley the
Let's take the vote.
$52,000. Okay.
Okay. Any further discussion?
It's just unfortunate that 6 of the 7 board members weren't here during that like, it really puts 6 of the 7 of us in a really bad spot, because we don't have firsthand knowledge of what happened. So just so you know, I mean, it's not like I don't know if it's right or wrong.
I would say
but I do
7
feel-
out of 7.
were you on the board at that time?
Your statement was 6 out of 7 knew what was going on. I'm saying 7 out of 7
So
didn't
the
know what was
board
going
was,
on.
so the board didn't know what was going on.
I'm saying, as I was on the board, I was not privy to this information.
So the board wasn't informed. So.
I had a brief conversation with Mr. Dunkley. Mr. Dunkley brought to my attention some of the things that he was doing outside of his, but as Mr. Dunkley didn't feel comfortable elaborating on it because of the environment. So as I tried to get additional information, that additional information was not available.
I just feel that none of us, I feel badly that none of us were really privy to any of this. I stand corrected. It's unfortunate. It definitely is unfortunate. And it speaks poorly of the former administration, I think.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor?
So I ask that the board be polled on this motion. The
roll
board-
call vote?
The board roll call vote, yeah.
Mr. Stepnick, will you take a roll call vote, please?
Certainly.
Excuse me, point of clarification. Can you abstain?
No.
Me?
No, can I? No. Can a board member abstain if they don't feel comfortable one way or the other?
You can only, from my knowledge of parliamentary procedure, you can only abstain if it's a conflict of interest, and you need to state that.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, roll call vote. Mr. Stepnick, please.
Trustee Donnelly.
Aye.
Secretary Stepnick, aye. President D'Alessandro.
Aye.
Vice President Brazington.
Aye.
Treasurer Schwag.
No.
Trustee Guthrie.
Aye.
Trustee Schaefer.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Item 9, Student Services. Mrs. Sweet.
Nothing from Student Services.
All right. Item 10, unscheduled audience participation.
Hi, my name is, sorry, I'm a little nervous, so bear with me.
Okay.
Some of you may know me, but for those that don't, my name is Amy Hagley. My two oldest daughters, I have two daughters that attended Oxford High School. One of them is currently a junior. My husband, who is a wounded veteran, and I also have a 6-year-old at the DA, and we just had a baby that just turned 1 year old. I come before you today in regards to the project 13 Reasons Why Not. I can't even begin to describe how absolutely amazing this project is. The moment I was made aware of this project, Pam Fine and the students will and always have this family's support. These students are being heard. Their stories are similar to others who don't have that courage to speak. They remain in silence, their pain unnoticed, and yet it builds up. And eventually that pain will take over, and for some, that pain can take their life. But these courageous students, these 13, 6 of them right now, soon to have more, who have volunteered to be one of these 13 reasons why not, are truly making a difference in the lives of those that feel alone, those that feel they don't have a voice, those that feel no one will understand. These 13 brave students are telling stories of pain and reminding their peers that there was just that one person that listened to them and they made a difference in their life. It gives others so much hope. It's creating conversations that too many avoid in our schools and in our communication or in our community. I would hope the school board realizes this positive impact this project is making, not just in our school district, beyond our state borders. I highly encourage our schools to go forward with this project and build upon it. I don't think everyone truly understands the impact it has made. And trust me, you don't want that phone call that will change your life forever. You see, I lost my daughter to suicide. Her death didn't just affect me, my family, or her close friends. Her death broke the hearts of many people, including the teachers, administration, staff, people in community, people that didn't even know her, people that are not even in the state or community. This project is a great idea. It has the potential to avoid another family like mine from having to visit their loved one at the cemetery every week, bringing flowers for they will never buy another outfit, a pair of shoes, a dinner, a movie, a prom ticket, just flowers to lay at a headstone, just a flower. I'd rather have my daughter be here to be one of those brave students giving her story and being a part of this 13 Reasons Why Not, but she won't. I encourage her school to reach out to one individual who at least has 25 years of knowledge and credentials regarding suicide awareness. I have her credentials with me today. I've also had the privilege of meeting her just 2 years after the loss of my daughter at the Walk for Hope event. This event not only had an abundance of resources available, but it was healing to those who lost a loved one. Even ex-Lions quarterback Eric Tipple and his daughter were there to tell their story of Eric's attempt to suicide and how it affected them as a family. This individual is Barb Smith, and she's the founder and facilitator of Survivors of Suicide. She conducts safe talk training and is a certified trainer for the Yellow Ribbon Program, which for those that don't know about this, it's a proactive suicide prevention and intervention program. She has more credentials regarding suicide awareness than everyone in this room combined. When I shared the Oakland Press story regarding 13 Reasons Why Not project, she reached out to me and she's like, these kids have my support. She thinks it's a great idea, and if I've got her on my side, then I think this is a really good project that we're doing and we should go forward. I really believe we would have Barb Smith. We have Pam Fine, who's sitting behind me still. She's gonna be, I believe, our next Barb Smith. She has that passion. I really wish we had it, what they have right up there in the Great Lakes region. Oakland County can benefit from these programs. So, though they're not here, to the parents of these students, I thank them for allowing their children to tell their stories and supporting them, and I hope the school board will continue to support these people. Earlier today at the Prince Conference, it was mentioned that this isn't the end. I truly hope that is true. I know there is always some controversy behind every subject. I'm not clueless to this. But please don't let politics, religious beliefs, or personal beliefs stop these students from telling their stories. Thank you, Pam, and all your students that have submitted their stories, all of them, 100 plus. I ask that you continue this project, for I don't want another parent to live the life that I'm living, a life without a precious child. I have this book in front of me. This book is my daughter's book. It never got to be filled completely. It looks full, but there isn't a driver's training photo in here. There's no driver's license, there's no prom pictures, there's no graduation pictures. Don't let another family go through what this family's gone through. They're doing something wonderful, and I can't say enough about it. So I conclude with, please continue to support it. Don't let it go through the cracks. If you don't push, I'll be your hemorrhoid and I'll push it on you. You don't want it. That's all.
Thank you for sharing your story. It's beneficial to everyone, and I guess as one board member, I'd just say I think this group took which is what we asked for with IB, be a risk taker. Oh my gosh, did they take a risk? I know they planned a lot of it, and there's just some things you can't account for, and it was wildly successful. I think they've learned some things also, how to even make it better, and all of the accolations that it's getting, and the tremendous support in the community and even in the state and nation has just been phenomenal. So I do believe that the board will be supporting that type of action as far as we can go, and keep it moving forward.
Thank you. Anybody else? Number 11, clarification, Mr. Throne?
None.
Okay, we got a list of scheduled activities. It's going to be a busy month. So we'll have to take a look at those. They are on the website. Pat is on the...
Yes, that's right. Okay.
Thank you. Okay, final board comments, Ms. Schaefer.
Oh, gosh. A lot of information tonight. I was very moved. I was very moved by that. I think I'll just take a pass.
Okay. Ms. Guthrie?
Out of everything that we just spent time on here tonight, I think that the presiding theme that I want to focus on, even though this wasn't in everything that we talked about, is engagement and meaningful instruction that's going on in our schools, which I think is fantastic. It is amazing. We, from Oxford Early Learning to DK to high school, we have presentations across the board on engagement of our students and how meaningful instruction, like I was saying to Mr. Boyd, they gave kindergartners a whiffum of what's in it for me to be organized. I mean, if they can't do that in my household, I mean, I'm sure they could, I can't. But I'm really motivated by that. I feel like we've hit some bumpy places with this board, and we have some work to do. Our board has some work to do. We all do. We need to get it together. That's my other feeling tonight, is I'm not real proud of what went down here tonight. So, and I'm not real comfortable with it. So I really believe that we're charged with pulling this together so that we can support amazing programming in our schools. Our students need us to support them, and so do our teachers and our administrators. That's why we're here, and for them.
Thank you. Mr. Donnelly?
Mr. Throne, you should be proud. Today's been a good day. From the heaviest things that we dealt with the why nots, to watching curriculum presentations of all grade levels. And as Mike Schwag says, do you teach to test, or do you teach for life? You've chosen the latter, will get you the first. It is amazing to see that you're teaching higher critical thinking. You're teaching problem solving. You're teaching communication within cultures that some tests won't even touch. But the life skills involved in the process of learning that stuff will help you score the test. Home run. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Donnelly. Mr. Stepek?
Thank you. I agree with comments already made. We have some work to do. One thing that I thought would have got mentioned tonight was the Oxford Gives Back program that happened last weekend. And I just want to really commend them. That was a great thing. I got involved and was out raking and chainsawing and doing all that stuff. And it was really great to see how happy the homeowners were. And actually, several times, the woman, Mrs. Myers, she couldn't walk real well. And so, I helped her back into the house a few times, and where she had to go in and rest and then come back out onto the deck and watch us. And it was just really great and really heartfelt, and that's the Oxford that I like. That's it.
Thank you, Mark. Dr. Brazelton?
I will pass.
Okay. Mr. Schweig?
Well, I feel that we've covered an emotional roller coaster here tonight, and I think we're on the right track. As Jenny says, I think we can always be better, and if we look at ourselves and do that, I think we'll become close together. I'm really encouraged by the people that are on the board, because I feel they come from a whole different perspective, and it's important to hear your voice. And we just need to do it in a manner that happens to be very constructive and very positive, and we, myself, can all learn from that. And it's just amazing that Oxford Gives Back is like, not a top thing as far as what's been going on in our community. There's so many great things, and it's a phenomenal part of the school district that we're doing. It's great credit to Tim and his whole team.
Thank you, Mr. Schweig. I want to echo what everybody has said. I also want, I also want to thank the leader, Elise. Please let everybody over at the leader know that we appreciate the way that they covered Oxford Gives Back. It was very, very well done. And I don't, as much as everybody gives Tim and central office, and maybe sometimes the board, credit for changing things around a little bit and doing things a little bit different, it's a much different tone at the leader, and I appreciate that, and I know that the board does. So please thank everybody there. I look forward to continued partnership. They did an outstanding job covering some very difficult topics, so please let them know we appreciate that, or I do. And that's a tough one. It just that's a tough part of this job, because lives are so frail at a very young age. So we need to do a better job of making sure that the voices get heard. So any chance we can help, please let us do so. We'll continue to push, even when people don't agree. We'll keep pushing. So thank you, board, for your support of the effort. And with that, I'll turn over to Tim.
I hesitate to start mentioning anything because I don't want to miss something. From Washia's presentation, all the great work at the OELC, up through all the curriculum committees and all the activities that's been going on in our community the last couple of weeks. I think maybe I'll just say this, and this is sort of what I've been saying to our staff as I've been going around and hitting our staff meetings, and I've likened it to a race, and we've all been running this year. We've been running like crazy, and the end's in sight. We're almost there. Don't give up. Don't give up. And in fact, if anything, usually the winner or winners are determined in those last few steps of that race. And so, just like I've been telling our teachers, I'm gonna tell you all, finish strong. We've done a lot of good work. You know, I think, yeah, boy, we're exhausted. We're getting near the end of the year, but now is when we really make the difference and where we can win, maybe where others just finish. And so, thank you to everyone who's just really been working hard in every capacity possible, especially the last few weeks.
Okay. As a motion? Mr. Schwag?
Move to meet in closed session pursuant to the Open Meetings Act, Section 8A, to consider the dismissal, suspension, or disciplining of, or to hear complaints or charges brought against, or to consider a periodic personnel evaluation of a public office employee or staff member or individual agent is the named person requesting a closed hearing.
Support? Support, Dr. Brazington. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Okay.
We only have.
We are now back in open session. It is 10:55.
Other.
Other.
Oh, well.
Because now you're open session, you're.
Oh, it's your meeting, no.
Any other? No?
Nope.
Okay, meeting adjourned.
Thank you.